This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
From north, south, east, and west, North America, Japan, and back again. This is your home for modern-day wrestling, with the occasional trip back in time. It's Place to Be Nation's main event. Now let's head into Studio B with your host, Scott Criscolo, and the Godfather, Nate Milton.
Place to Be Nation! Welcome back to your home for everything modern-day pugilism. Meaning, of course, wrestling, not boxing. Although I do love Deontay Wilder. Welcome to your home for everything modern-day wrestling, Place to Be Nation's main event. I'm your co-host, Scott Criscolo, episode 130. Yes, finally we're getting to some numbers with awesome athletes. We have a special guest in the A block, and I'm sure he will have a nice perspective on that as well. We've got a jam-packed show tonight. We got a lot to talk about. We had a big event this past weekend in pro wrestling. We've got 3 big events, 2.5, I guess, technically, this weekend. 2 events, or maybe 1.5 events on Saturday, and of course, a big pay-per-view event on Sunday. But I don't do that alone, of course. Let me bring in my co-host. He has he is, of course, the co-host of the Kings of Sport. Check out the Kings of Sport Patreon. And we'll get more into that later on. And he's one of my favorite people. And he'll come up with a bunch of awesome number 30s. The Godfather, Nate Milton.
What is going on, Brother Scotty? It is good to be here. It is good to be back. We're in the midst of a packed week, or a packed couple of weeks. Yes. In the world of professional wrestling, coming off of a really solid weekend with the G1 kicking off, as well as Impact putting on a good show with Slammiversary.
That's right.
But you mentioned awesome number 30s, and knowing the NBA aficionado that you are, Scotty, I could think of no other person than somebody who is one of the all-time greats, one of the all-time best to ever wear the number 30. And that, of course, is the big man from Egypt, Allah Abdel Nabi.
Abdel Nabi. He's on my list, brother. He's on my list. You guys know that laugh is. The alumni of Duke, and of course he played for a few teams in the league. What did he play for? The Kings, I think. Who else did he play for? Kings.
He played for a bunch of different teams. He was a journeyman backup center, which is a good gig if you can get it.
Yes. Some other hoop 30s. Let's see. I got a few here. Well, there's a ton of guys, but we'll do Michael Beasley. Yep. Let's see. Of course, 130 we can't forget. 3-time NBA champion. Davidson alum, number 30 for the Golden State Warriors, Mr. Steph Curry,
who had an unlikely babyface turn in the finals this year.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like the Warriors became sympathetic with all the injuries and whatnot.
Exactly. One of my favorite players from the 80s was a great New York Knick, and then blew his knee out and ended up being a pretty good shooter for the Bullets, Mr. Bernard King.
Yep. Fastest first step I think I've ever seen in the NBA. Bernard King.
Whose delicious voice is that? Let's bring him in because we want to get more 30s. He is our guest here in the A block. The conscience of Place to Be Nation, the most awesome Steve Wille. He'll join us in the B block for this week's edition of the New Japan Classic Match Picks because they're his picks. So he will join us in the B block. He couldn't join us in the A block. But this fucking guy did because he's awesome as shit. He is a extraordinaire podcaster. He's been on a bunch of great shows in the past and the present. And we had him on tonight because he was in, I always have to say this city in my Steve Austin Survivor Series 2003 voice.
In Dallas, Texas.
On Saturday night for the opening of the 2019 G1, the sheriff himself, Mr. Pete Schirmacher. Pete, welcome to the show.
Thanks,
good to have you back.
I appreciate it, man. I didn't mean to step on y'all's intro because, man, I don't get a chance to talk about Bernard King, but as a lifelong New York Knicks fan and growing up in my household, Bernard King was holy to my father. And because before the 70s, I mean, we had a long stretch, and we're already on another long stretch of bad, not getting a good New York Knicks team in a while. So
yeah, exactly. So great to have you, Pete. Cedric Maxwell wore number 30, not with the Celtics though. He wore 31 with the Celtics. Did Scottie Pippen wear 30 with somebody? Not with the Bulls.
I think it was with Houston, probably.
Yeah, Houston he probably wore 30. The Bulls, of course, he wore 33. Seth Curry wore 30. Of course, another 30 that you see on TV all the time, graduate of the University of North Carolina, and he's on Inside the NBA on TNT. Mr. Kenny Smith wore 30. Rasheed Wallace wore 30. David West wore 30. Clarence Weatherspoon at some point in his career wore 30. Sarunas Marciulionis won number 30. So we got a bunch of 30s in the NBA. In the NHL, I have one 30 in particular, and he's one near and dear to my heart because he won the Conn Smythe Trophy for your 2011 Stanley Cup champion Boston Bruins. That was, of course, goalie Tim Thomas, who now grows a beard, lives in the woods in Vermont, and shoots anybody that comes near him. In football, of course, we have one of the few men to ever rush for 2,000 yards in a season, and I think he's a Super Bowl MVP, I think. Terrell Davis of the Denver Broncos. Did Elway win both MVPs in those 2 years, or did TD win the first one when they beat Green Bay? Do you guys know? I know Elway won the one that they beat the Falcons. That I know for a fact. The year that Terrell Davis rushed for 2,000 yards. But I don't remember did TD win the MVP when they beat Green Bay? I don't know. I think he did, actually. I don't think Elway won both. I think TD won the first one when they beat the Packers, and then Elway, I know for a fact, won the one the following year when they beat Atlanta in Super Bowl, whatever number that was, 34, I think, or something. Any other football players? Stump Mitchell, who's a running back for the Cardinals. Pete would like that one.
Yeah, that was a deep cut. Yeah, that was my brother's favorite running back growing up.
He was number 30. Well, there weren't a lot of. I don't remember 30 in the Cowboys. Any other 30s? Well, baseball. One of my current guys, New York Met Michael Conforto, wears number 30. Let me think. Willie Randolph, for you Yankee fans, I think he wore number 30 back in the day.
There's one big number 30 that's out there.
Oh man. Baseball.
And it's one of the greatest players ever in baseball, but the time he wore number 30 was at this random point in his career.
All right. Well, I know that I have four Nolan Ryan jerseys, and actually, yes, the first two teams of his career. When he was with the Mets, he wore 30. And when he was with the Angels, he wore 30. Thank you, brother. And both those jerseys are in my closet. And I also have a 34 Astros and a 34 Rangers. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a couple of months. Pete, any other 30s that I'm not thinking about?
I'm terrible with numbers, so you asked the wrong guy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I got two more.
Okay.
Got Rock Reigns.
Oh yeah, of course. He was 30 with the He wore 30 with the Expos. I know when he went to the Yankees, he wore 31, but he definitely wore 30 with the Spos. Yes, that's true.
And then, of course, the legendary Maury Wills.
Maury Wills wore number 30, first guy to steal 100 bases. Yes, and he was one of the first.
So a couple speedsters right there.
Yes, that's right. And everyone thinks Ricky did not wear 30 with the A's first time. He wore 35, but we'll get to that down the line as well.
One of his 6 stints with the Oakland A's.
Yeah, 60 exactly, and 3 different numbers. Anyway, starting with our next episode, 31 through 35, we are going to have a cavalcade of greatness.
Yeah, and I know in particular there's a great player at number 32. He's a killer.
Oh God! You know what, Nate? That joke was so smooth and soft. It felt like putting on a glove.
You couldn't even save it for the proper episode.
I know, yeah.
We'll bring it back. We'll bring it back.
More where that came from, guys. Great episode. So, all right. As Brother Nate said, and as Pete knows, these 2 weekends in professional wrestling, this past weekend that happened, and this coming weekend are fucking jammed. Five different promotions. 5 different major promotions from last Saturday to this coming Sunday. 5 have big shows coming up. Of course, as Nate mentioned, Sunday night was Impact Wrestling's Slammiversary, capped off with what I heard was actually a pretty good match between Sami Callihan and Tessa Blanchard. The right person won, by the way, before anybody bitches. of course, this coming weekend, and we'll chat about it, on Saturday, of course, is AEW's Fight for the Fallen in Jacksonville. And also, Evolve is having their 10th anniversary show. And then, of course, Sunday night is the next WWE pay-per-view, which is, of course, Extreme Rules taking place down the pike in Philly. But the reason we have Sheriff Pete here, besides the fact he's awesome, is Saturday night, to get this whole week of wrestling buffet started, Big Pete was down at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas, for night one of what has now become a nice summer tradition in professional wrestling, the New Japan Pro Wrestling's G1 Climax. And, of course, this year was the first G1 Climax to open outside of the country of Japan. Mr. Tanahashi trying to defend his G1 championship, which, of course, he won last year, and then unsuccessfully went after Mr. Okada at not Okada, went after Kenny Omega no, he did beat him. No, I'm sorry. I'm getting my years confused. Tanahashi successfully cashed in his G1 last year, beating Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom. Of course, then Tanahashi lost it to Jay White. Of course, Jay White lost it to Okada at the G1 Supercard, which I was at. I like saying that because it makes me feel good that I was at such a huge show that wasn't WWE, which is big for me in my life. Pete, before we get into you being there and everything, what were your thoughts? What were you thinking going in about opening this thing not in Japan? Do you think this was a big risk going in?
It was a very big risk, but I will say I bought my ticket first thing immediately, right when it opened up, because I honestly thought they were going to sell a lot of tickets because of all the buzz on the internet and on Twitter, and clearly I was wrong because there was only 4,500 people in that building with lots of just areas just completely empty. But I think if you're trying to make the company more global, I thought it was a risk that I thought they were going to do well, and they risked it with a lot of help from Mark Cuban, who supposedly owns AXS TV, owns the center, so they got a sweetheart of a deal. So I don't think they lost any money on this thing. So I thought the risk was worth it with all the help they're getting, like financially and stuff, to run it. And I thought they did for a show. It was an excellent show. It just didn't draw what I thought it was going to draw.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. What about you, Nate? Did you feel it was a risk?
I felt it was a risk, but it was also a necessary and logical next step. You know, after we saw New Japan making inroads in California in years prior, it just felt like the next step was, you know, let's bring the G1 to America and let's see if we can expand the tent. I don't know if Dallas would have been my first choice for a city, but like Pete was saying, when you have that connection with Mark Cuban and that connection with Access, it's hard to pass that up from a business standpoint. So even though they didn't sell out the arena, I still think that, you know, regardless of what happens going forward, this was a move that they kind of had to make if they wanted to see if they could grow the company bigger.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I don't think this hurts. I think the success of the G1 Supercard, which I was at a packed Madison Square Garden WrestleMania weekend, in spite of the fact that, you know, Ring of Honor right now is a fucking shit show, that they did a tremendous job. So I don't think this was a total risk, considering that a lot of the higher end guys in New Japan, as we've talked about here, are very popular everywhere. And also with this being like the year-long swan song for one of arguably the greatest Japanese wrestlers of all time in Jushin Thunder Liger, as this is his kind of like retirement tour, kind of like Kareem and Dr. J with the rocking chairs. So I think I think it might have been a big deal to do a New Japan show leading off your second biggest thing of the year after Wrestle Kingdom. I consider the G1 Climax kind of, you could call it a combination of their SummerSlam and their Royal Rumble. It's like their number two thing, of course. Wrestle Kingdom, in my opinion, is their WrestleMania. So I could see that being a risk that, yeah, you're doing a domestic, a North American show, and that's one thing. But to open up your biggest thing of the year not in Japan is definitely a risk to take.
And, things might have turned out a little better because they just lost their main American crew to AEW. So maybe if they had Omega and the Young Bucks and maybe help from Cody, it might have helped the draw because the only Americans on the card were Jeff Cobb and Chase Owens. Everyone else, and Lance Archer were the only. Jeff Cobb he's Philippines, I guess, or Hawaiian, and I guess he's from Hawaii. Or where's he exactly from? You guys know?
Jeff Cobb. Where is Cobb from? Let me see.
Cobb's from Hawaii.
Yeah, okay. Technically he was born in Honolulu. Yeah.
Okay. And so they just didn't have that impact that might have helped the draw a little. So that maybe they were really a year too late, maybe running. Maybe. Yeah. But maybe they'd also, when they had these booking plans going forward, maybe they didn't know they were going to have all these losses either.
True. It was probably an inkling that something was going down. I talked to Kevin Kelly WrestleMania weekend, and he was kind of thinking that, but he was pumped for Dallas. He was excited for it. So talk about the layout of the place. Obviously, American Airlines Center, 19,000 seat place. Home of the Mavs, home of the Stars. So it's not a tiny place, kind of like Madison. It's in terms of a population or size, it's obviously similar to Madison Square Garden. And that was a sellout. So how was the layout of the inside of the building, Pete?
It really didn't look that big. Honestly, I thought it looked like it only held 12,000 people. It felt like one of those arenas that NXT would run on one of their big shows, like the Barclays Center or something in that ilk.
Well, let's see. Maybe it's just the way it's laid out then, because for basketball it seats 19,200, hockey 18,532, and concerts 21,000. So no, it's a big. It's a big.
Wow,
place.
okay.
I was gonna say it's about a 20,000 seat arena. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's just the way
like it.
What was the buzz like though in Dallas? Because when you go to a WrestleMania or when you go to a SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, things like that, even something like Double or Nothing or All In, there's a palpable feeling in the town that it's taking place in. Did you feel that in Dallas, Pete?
Not really. Then again, I was there. I took the train in from Austin, and I got into Dallas at 3:30, and I the tickets said 5 o'clock. So I assumed that meant that doors were opening at 5, and the show would start at 6. But then I'm hearing, no, the show's starting at 5 p.m.
Oh, wow.
And so I get off my train, and I walk over to my hotel, check in, immediately grab a bite to eat, and I was going to walk over to the arena, but I was running out of time because it's like 4:30 at this point. So I took an Uber, and the Uber picked me up within a minute, which I would say if it was WrestleMania or it didn't, I just can't imagine that. So then I got over to the arena, got into my seat maybe 15 minutes before the start of bell time. I didn't have to wait outside. I walked right in. And so it really didn't have nearly like the buzz. I've been to many of the Manias. It didn't feel like the town was taken over by a bunch of wrestling fans. I saw a couple people wearing shirts in my hotel, but for the most part, it didn't really feel like there was like a ton of buzz about it going on. And even the guy, my Uber driver, didn't even ask, "Hey, what's going on? Why are you going here?" Like most of them will ask you when you're on the road or what have you, or they're saying how busy they've been, or usually with an Uber app, it would say there's so many people need an Uber that it's going to cost you time and a half to get one or something, and there's none of that happening.
Damn, New Japan couldn't even get surge pricing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
My favorite guy, and I've said this many times as Nate, I did 2 of his matches. I'm an Okada guy because to me, I said this to almost all of our guests and to Nate and Steve. Pete, I consider Okada the Japanese Ric Flair. He just knows how to be great at the right time. And he has that aura about him that he could be a face or a heel and you wouldn't know the difference. And I think that's a good thing. Was there a buzz for him? Because he's the face of the company right now.
Oh, in the building, it was a whole different story now. That crowd was there to see a New Japan show. The building, Okada and Tanahashi, I've never seen a reaction like that. It was, and mind you, I'm a guy I've been into the 80s. I've seen Hogan and Savage twice in Houston. I've seen Bret and Mr. Perfect. I was in Chicago for the Flair Steamboat title change. I've Brock Lesnar and Goldberg at Mania. I mean, I've seen a lot of big matches. I've seen Stone Cold versus The Rock in Houston at Mania. I also saw him on a house show in Austin. And I've never seen the buzz that Okada and Tanahashi had in that building. It was just everyone standing, and they were loud the whole entire match. Just a look from Okada, and had the whole entire crowd just enamored. It was one of the most insane reactions I've ever seen for a wrestling match.
Mm-hmm.
And to talk about your point, I think Okada always reminded me of Bret Hart with his style of wrestling, where he has a formula and he usually sticks to it. But I can totally see your Flair comparison, because he does come across larger than life with his robes and the color and his outfits and stuff. And of course, his dyed hair doesn't hurt.
Obviously, and his eyes. And I've said this to both Nate and Steve. Anytime I've watched an Okada match, whether he's a heel, face, challenger, champion, he's one of those guys that Flair just knew when he was walking down a ramp. Yes, in terms of in-ring, I agree with you 100% on Bret. Okada is very formulaic, and that's okay. That's not an insult, right, obviously. But that's all right. Okada just knows when he's walking down the ramp and he stops and he looks at the crowd and he's completely poker face. He could do that whether he's hating you or he's loving you. He still does it the same way. He gets it. And I think that's why I think he's a guy that I think could make it in North America. I don't know about WWE. That's a whole other fucking can of worms. But I do think he's a guy that could survive in other places. Obviously, TNA treated him like fucking Kung Fu, wherever the fuck he was when he first got. Or that was Nakamura. No, that was Okada.
Yeah, that was Okada. He was Okato.
Yeah, it was Green Hornet. That was fucking stupid. So was that movie.
That's your boy Russo for you.
There you go, bro. Put on this green mask, bro. Dope. All right.
But he carries himself like a star. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's no question. He carries himself like Flair or Shawn or any of those guys. He's a stud.
Real quick, not many people in the WWE who have that aura. Brock has it. And of course, the throwback guys like Undertaker, they have it.
Right.
But for the most part, their newest stars, even like the Roman Reignses of the world, Seth Rollins, I don't think comes close to having it. There's an aura, and Okada clearly has that aura about him.
Well, there's somebody on this card, Pete, that certainly did not have that aura in the WWE, but I'm wondering if he had that aura in the building, and that, of course, is Kenta, the artist formerly known as Hideo Itami. I'm wondering how he's coming across on this return to New Japan.
It was interesting with the Kenta and Ibushi match. It was a match that really didn't do much for me live. There were several moments that were very exciting, but a lot of it left me cold. But I will say, for the most part, this crowd was a very hot crowd. It was into like everything. The crowd was into this. There was, you're gonna get your chance. There was only in the whole entire show, there was only one chance of one chant of the crowd trying to hijack the show, like you'll see in WWE with the CM Punk chants or what have you, of the audience trying to hijack a show from the company. There was only one moment in the New Japan G1 here, and it was during this match where there was a Red Shoes chant breaking out in the middle of the match, but got quickly shot down. There was a lot of, this is awesome, fight forever. And I'm not fans of those chants, but that's not like trying to hijack a show by any stretch of the imagination. Cheering for the ref is I mean, it has its moments. You can do it before a match or during a commercial break or what have you. But trying to do it between this match, I found pretty disrespectful. But for that part, the crowd really shut it down and drowned it out, and it died a quick death. But Kenta was treated like a big star coming out. I'm not sold yet. I was expecting more out of that match, to tell you the truth, because I am a big Ibushi guy. I think Ibushi is fantastic, but it seemed like they're trying to have an epic without having a true history.
Right.
But I think hopefully at the end of the G1, I hope he has some better highs, and he'll get there. For his sake. But man, I had really good seats, and man, his arm has that surgical cut. And that looks like 2 or 3 inches long. It's I don't know. I just don't know how that arm is, how healthy that arm really is.
That's always the question with him now. Well, at least it's been the question for the last 4 or 5 years. It seems is his health.
Yeah, I'm up there close, and he has a sleeve on, and then there's still like a 2 or 3 inch gash that's coming up his arm from the surgical cut. So. You just never know with stuff like that. Anytime you go under the knife, how much you're able. I mean, we've seen in the past, like with Paul Orndorff and Kurt Angle, the atrophy that happens.
Yep.
I wasn't staring that closely, but he's a guy who could easily fall into that category and derail his type of career and the style that he works on such a physical style.
Well, that's the thing. Like even we were talking NBA players early on in the show. Even if a player comes back from an operation the next season, it really takes them a full year to kind of get back to where they were, if they ever get back to that point.
Yeah, and coming back and going into the G1, which I mean, wrestlers have said how incredibly grueling that is, and it's easier now than they used to be, where you're working a singles match every day. Here, at least you can hide in some of them tag matches, because that's the new formula for the G1 is they do tag matches underneath, 6-man tags usually, or maybe just regular tags. But the reason they're doing it is it actually makes sense for a booking standpoint, where you're teasing future matchups in the G1, and it makes you kind of whet your appetite for it, gives you a little appetizer, if you will.
Let's take a look for a minute at the list as we go into this year's group or this year's tournament. Of course, Tanahashi's your defending winner. Here's the A block, and of course they've only done A block matches. We haven't done the B's haven't wrestled yet. So block A this year is Lance Archer, Bad Luck Fale, who cut an awesome promo on YouTube after his match, by the way. Kenta, Okada, Sonata, Evil, Ibushi, Will Ospreay, Zack Sabre Jr., who was my pick 2 years ago, and Tanahashi. The B block, who hasn't had a match yet, Jeff Cobb, Hiroki Goto, Ishii, Moxley, we'll get to that in a minute, Naito, a lot of people's favorite, Juice, Taichi, Takagi, Jay White, a lot of people think he's a dark horse, and Toru Yano. What do you think of the layout of the two groups, Pete? Do you think they're even? Not even. How do I word it? Do you think they were laid out right? Do you think it's the right group of guys together? Should there have been movement from a?
I'm always like, I'll wait till I see it, see how it plays out, because you never know. I've seen some things where you're like, oh, this is clearly the loaded division, and kind of sometimes it doesn't turn out that way. Sometimes, to a lot of people, I kind of like Yano in the G1. Because he's so different than everybody else and has a completely different style, that he's kind of refreshing in the G1. But he even gets long in the tooth after some of these G1, how many matches they run through. So I'm more of a wait and see type of thing. I was surprised to see Okada and Tanahashi actually in the same bracket. But I think that was cool, and I guess that's also a smart. That's their way of trying to hopefully sell some Hail Mary tickets late to Dallas, and obviously it didn't quite pan out the way they did. It did, but yeah, more of the wait and see type of thing. Because I think they've been doing real well with the G1 the last few years, and then I'm gonna I question Gato's booking here and there, but he usually has a good idea. Especially he really knows how to book a G1 really well, and so I'm confident in what he's going to be doing.
Do you think if they could do it over again, with hindsight being 2020, Pete, that they would have switched Moxley with somebody in the A block?
I think, part of the problem was that AEW owns the rights to Moxley, and they don't mind him working Japan for New Japan, but I think they want to protect his exclusivity and his drawing power in the States, so where he shows up, they're using him and taking care of that. So I don't think they could have, but I think if you did add Moxley at the last minute, I think you probably could have sold like another 1,000 tickets at least.
Let's talk about Moxley for a minute. And I know we'll get into more AEW later on when we talk about Fight for the Fallen, but do you think putting Moxley in this causes I know he's doing dates and he's, but did this kind of cause a bit of a mess, Pete, for AEW and for New Japan? Because really, if he's only going to wrestle in Japan, then what the fuck is he going to do? I mean, obviously he's not winning this thing because that would be fucking stupid.
What's even more stupid, he has their U.S. belt right now.
Yeah, which I think Juice is going to win it back eventually.
Yeah, which, I mean, he can't defend the U.S. belt in the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, that's already, dumb. But obviously they didn't want to beat him on his first night in.
Yeah.
That's, bad booking.
Yeah, I know. So I think having him in this was fucking stupid, to be honest with you. I understand wrestling. For
New Japan's standpoint, it really doesn't. It's not that bad because it's like AEW is going to be pushing him to the moon. He's gonna be one of their two biggest stars in that company probably. And to me, it's like he should be doing jobs to a lot of people in that tournament for New Japan, if that's the case. If they're not going to be doing a work agreement with AEW, and they could beat Moxley and get that rub of like, hey, my Okada beat their heavyweight champion, if that ends up being the case, Oh, hey, he beat a former WWF champion.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Now, from John Moxley doesn't help him, but if he's getting paid and he's going to be able to work the matches that he wants to have, I think that's good. And then it's getting more eyes on him, and that also gets more eyes hopefully on AEW because I mean right now he's gotten a lot of buzz coming out of the WWF doing the podcast.
Yep.
And he's getting a lot of stuff on regular media, not just wrestling media, and then being able to get people's eyes on him, and people talking about AEW. So maybe some of the fans of New Japan will now sample the AEW product too.
Let's talk about the rest of the A block. Obviously, Okada, he could win. I doubt he's gonna, because then he picks his opponent. However, is that on the table? Do you think, Pete?
I never say never with Okada because you just never know with him and where they're going. I personally think Ibushi's going to come out of that unless they want to do something maybe special, maybe like a dream matchup with you. I mean, you're obviously going to get Kenta and Okada at one point in this bracket, but maybe have Kenta come out and because they want something like that, like a dream match of the current legend versus the former legend. So I mean, I think I want to see Ibushi come out of it, but you just never know. I just feel, and you never know about. I always think they're going to go Japanese just because that's traditionally how they've been booked. But I would love to see Ospreay come out of it. But I just don't think. I still think they do consider him a junior, but I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping. I think it's going to be Ibushi.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question to you, Pete, in terms of, kind of handicapping the chances of some of the non-Japanese performers like an Ospreay or a Zack Sabre Jr. or even somebody like a Juice Robinson in this thing.
Yeah, I just think, the bottom line is they're trying to be more global, and I think they got to think about that when they're booking the G1. But when push comes to shove, it's still a Japanese company, and I think they got to protect their regulars, and their foreigners are going to be secondary, unless they're a special case type of situation. And like right now, I don't think any of their regulars aren't as special as AJ Styles was at one point, or Kenny Omega, who ended up becoming pretty special in New Japan, or I mean, obviously Jericho's not in it, so there's no need to protect him. Moxley, I mean, he can't work in the States, so I think he'll be doing, he'll do well in the G1. Don't get me wrong, but he'll be doing a lot of jobs for people, or maybe keep doing, or protecting those matches for big shows in Japan, where he might get a win over maybe Naito or something to that effect.
Yeah, let's talk. There's a couple of guys that people have been heavily talking about as favorites. Obviously, it's got to be a pseudo main eventer to a certain extent, because this does involve an IWGP title match in January. So we can't, so it's not going to be Moxley. That's outrageous. The one that most people talk about, that I've talked to people about, that they like as the favorite, is Naito. Because one of my buddies who does a podcast we've talked about on the show often, Mike Valenti, for the Squared Circle Psychobabble, which you can check out on YouTube, he came up with the nickname Tetsi Two Belts, because he wants to try to be the first IWGP guy to have to hold both belts at the same time. What do you think of his chances?
He'd be I think it's going to be Ibushi coming out of A block, and I think it's going to be Naito coming out of B block. But Naito, I still feel like he's lost some steam over the last year, where he was super hot. I'm not saying he's cold, because that's not what I'm saying. It's just he's not as hot as he was like a year ago, I don't feel.
What do you think of his chances, Nate?
I like Naito. If I'm going to put money down as a favorite in the B block, I'd probably put my money on Naito. Kind of selfishly, just for my own personal reasons, as a dark horse, I might throw a couple bucks on Jeff Cobb. Maybe set up a parlay with that. But yeah, I think Naito's the guy coming out of B block. In terms of the A block, I'd probably either go with Ibushi or Kenta.
Yeah. And I'll tell you one thing about being at the live show was the crowd was really hot and really wanted to see Naito, and they really sucked the crowd in and then played it up, and then he comes out and he wasn't wearing the suit, and a lot of people were disappointed that he wasn't in the suit. There were people dressed in Naito suits in the crowd, and it was just kind of depressing when he came out just with a t-shirt and his normal gear and a hat.
Yeah. One guy that I like, that, and I'm not a big fan of his, or I wasn't. He's grown on me a little bit. I didn't think he had a bad match at G1 Supercard, but I wasn't a big fan in the beginning, is Jay White. I don't know if has he had his rematch yet? Has he gotten
I'm not sure.
Do they do that in WWE? Do they do that in New Japan, even though WWE doesn't do anymore, the contractually obligated rematch after dropping the belt at G1 at the Supercard? I could see him winning this to get that rematch back with Okada at Wrestle Kingdom. I know he's kind of been shunted down a little bit, but I think he may have a chance. What about a guy like Fale?
He'll do well in the G1. They always protect him. But at the end of the day, there's no way he's going to win it. No way. But he'll have a winning record.
Yeah, no, he definitely will. One guy that's red hot right now, Will Ospreay. A lot of people think he's the best wrestler in the world right now. Do you agree with that? What do you think of his chances?
I enjoy Will at times. I thought he had the best match in Dallas. With that said, I think he has a good chance of coming out of that block, because I honestly think it's a three-pony show between Ibushi, Kenta, and him as the guy who's going to win out of that block. But having the junior belt just kind of, I just can't imagine New Japan going against a tradition like that.
What do you think, Nate?
I like Ospreay. I don't think he's the best in the world. He's certainly in the conversation, but he wouldn't be my number one. But I tend to agree with Pete in that I think he'll shine. He'll have his moments in the tournament, but this is a loaded A block. I know Pete said he was going to wait and see, in terms of how the blocks were divvied up, but just as somebody with a little bit less or a lot less New Japan knowledge as Pete, just from kind of an outsider's perspective, it looks like A block is loaded. Like it looks like that's where the buzz is, and I can't see Ospreay taking the top spot with some of those other names in there.
Yeah, I think I like Ibushi in A block as well. I think an Ibushi Naito final is actually pretty good. I think my dark horse would I eventually would like to see Zack Sabre win it, but I still think he's not quite at that main event level yet. I think he'll get there. Is there any scenario, Pete, where Moxley wins this? That makes sense.
I never say never. I just can't imagine. But unless they end up ditching Ring of Honor, and they're doing a tour later this year, and they're not getting zero Ring of Honor help. So maybe that deals a lot less more on thin ice than it's been reported, and they might be making that AEW deal. And if that's the case, you just never know.
It would make sense. Like, obviously there's contracts involved, but contracts can be gotten out of. Contracts can be renegotiated. But just from even, the landscape of American wrestling, and I was having this conversation over the weekend, I know TNA has gotten a bad rep for a lot of its history. A good portion of that reputation is earned. But if you go back and look at Slammiversary, and you go back and look at the last year and a half of Impact Television as well as their pay-per-views, to me there's no question that they've passed up ROH in terms of a quality product. ROH still has a better TV deal, and they've got a better reputation probably amongst the fans. But after WWE in North America, I think it's AEW clear number 2. And then if you're talking number 3, I think you can make a very strong case that Impact is a more attractive company to fans and workers than ROH right now. And so if I'm New Japan, I might want to see if I can, hop with AEW, because they're the new hotness. And as we saw in Men in Black 2, you don't want old and busted, you want new hotness.
Yes, after they moved out of new whatever the fucking, I was about to say new where the fuck is Thor from?
Thor is in
Asgard.
Yeah,
New
Asgard.
Yeah, the two of them got bored in New Asgard, so they wanted to hop the world. Or the
I didn't even see that movie. I had high hopes, but everybody I know and trust that has watched Men in Black International says it's terrible.
I've heard terrible things too.
Yeah, it didn't do very well. So anyway, there's a good snapshot of the G1 right now. In terms of wins, Lance Archer beat Ospreay, so that was actually, I consider that almost an upset.
Yeah, Archer's from Dallas, and
I was gonna say that was the hometown win right there.
Yeah, he went over with the Iron Claw. So,
yeah, they're really playing it up.
Yeah.
Fale beat Evil. Kenta in 2051 beat Ibushi. So that match had to. How was that match, Pete? Was that match on?
A little cold, honestly. It wasn't a bad match, but it's for me. It left me a little cold. But I've heard it's run the gauntlets from people thinking it was shitty to people thinking it was incredible. So it was hitting it. You got a reaction one way or the other. But for me, I felt it lacked something.
Let's see. Elsewhere, obviously Okada beat Tanahashi. Sonata defeated Zack Sabre. So there's your first 5 matches. The B block, I think those guys start up later this week. So,
yeah, I think it's on the 13th they start up.
Yeah, they start up on, I guess that's Saturday. So, all right. Quick check. Speaking of, let's talk briefly. It did happen this weekend. Impact Wrestling did indeed have a Slammiversary. As I anticipated, by the way, this was this in Dallas? I think it was, right?
It was. I had to work the next day, and so I didn't want to have to, it wouldn't have worked out for me.
Yeah. None of the titles changed hands. Let's see. The North retained the tag titles. Tara Valkyrie retained her Knockouts title in a Monsters Ball match. Rich Swann still has his X Division title. Brian Cage defeated Elgin to retain his Impact World title. So no title changes. Did you watch it, Nate?
Yeah, I watched it. Out of the 8 matches, there was only one bad match, and I can't even really call it a bad match. It was just disappointing, and that was the tag match where they did a injury angle with LAX because they're on their way out of the company, allegedly. And so that was the way they got around the finish. But there wasn't a bad match on the show. And like the last 4 matches, the Women's Monsters Ball, Rich Swann versus Johnny Impact for the X Division title, Brian Cage and Michael Elgin for the Impact World title, and then Callahan and Blanchard. All 4 of those matches were great. It was a really fun show. Tessa Blanchard's a star, and I would say, looking back, like to when's the last time Impact put on a really bad show or a bad episode of TV? I'm thinking we're probably gonna have to go back to maybe late 2017. Mm-hmm. So it's been over a year, and they've been consistent, putting on good programming with Scott D'Amore and Don Callis kind of running things over there. So
when they were doing well years ago, D'Amore was big in their creative, and you can just tell the difference, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, like RVD was on the show and Rhino was on the show, and they've done a great job of bringing back some of these older guys, but using them to boost up their current talent, which is the exact opposite of what they did for so many years.
What are your thoughts on Brian Cage?
I like him. Like he was somebody that I prejudged just because of the way he looks, and I thought he was just some jacked up musclehead who couldn't talk and couldn't wrestle, and I was not a fan of him. But after watching him for the past year, he still can't talk. Like he's not a good talker, but he is great in the ring for a big guy.
Is, right? Okay.
He's got the power spots, but he can also, do some high flying spots that you wouldn't expect from a guy that size. So he's huge.
He's huge.
Yeah. He's got a superstar look. He's got a great in-ring style. He just can't talk. But other than that, man, I'm really the guy's growing on me.
And he stands out because Impact has a lot of smaller wrestlers.
Yep.
And so he looks larger than life, where he's really only maybe like 5'10" or whatever. But he's ripped to the gills.
Yep.
But yeah, sometimes though I wish he would. I wish sometimes he'd cut down on some of his high spots because he doesn't really need them to be over. But he likes doing them. So I mean, what the hell can he do?
Right. So obviously,
and then Sami Callihan is somebody who hadn't gotten the credit, I think, but going back the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, one of the best heels in wrestling. And he was a big part of getting that Tessa Blanchard match over.
Yep. And he should have won before anybody craps their pants about that.
Yeah, because I think they're setting up for Callahan versus Cage for Bound for Glory in Chicago.
Yep. I agree. But Tessa's awesome. She's awesome. And obviously, the only still bad thing that Impact does is they don't really know when the next pay-per-view is, I guess Bound for Glory is the next big thing.
Yeah, so. Bound for Glory is the next show. I think they said in October. I could be wrong. But the other big news from Impact over the weekend, Scotty, is the rumors, the rumblings, that they might be switching TV networks from Pursuit, which not a lot of people get, to Access, which a little bit more people get.
That's a very strong rumor. I know, but Access, to Access's credit, they're becoming like a wrestling channel.
Yeah.
I mean, they have New Japan, and You know, they get Impact and you know, I think they had ROH for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens. All right, this weekend, guys, we've got 3 shows in 2 days. Of course, 2 of them on Saturday night and 1 on Sunday. Let's talk about Fight for the Fallen, which will be Saturday night in Jacksonville. Of course, all proceeds in-house go to victims of gun violence and a special charity, which is tremendous. But the show is free for TV, so go to Bleacher Report Live in the U.S. Or North America, and you can get it for free. So unlike Kenny Omega whining that we're all, the WWE's a bunch of scumbags. Well, Kenny, nobody's making money at home on it anyway. So I mean, the only thing I can think of is, are they doing maybe a telethon thing where people could call in and donate? I don't know if they're doing that, but I don't know. Anyway, here's your card. On the buy-in, as they call it now, Jimmy Havoc, Darby Allin, and Joey Janela take on MJF, Sammy Guevara, and Sean Spears, and that's on the pre-show.
Yeah,
I don't get that. Seriously, you're putting your top heel on the fucking pre-show? He must be doing something elsewhere, my opinion. And then Sonny Kiss takes on Peter Avalon in a singles match. Those are the pre-show matches. Then on the main card, Brandy Rhodes takes on Allie. Kenny Omega takes on Cena. Adam Page, Hangman, will take on Kip Sabian. So I'm assuming MJF will get involved in that somehow. SoCal Uncensored will take on Lucha Brothers, probably in a big kind of prelude match to their to the tag tournament. And the main event, the match that'll probably be last, the Rhodes take on the Bucks. That match will probably be the main event. So obviously, no Moxley at this show. He'll be in Japan. No Jericho. Anything in this card, Pete, that stands out for you?
The 6-man that opens.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, really, this is kind of, I like that. I'm a big Lucha Brothers fan. I'm not a big SoCal Uncensored fan, but I love the Lucha Brothers. I'm kind of waiting for AEW's television more to kind of get them fleshed out. Because I feel right now, a lot of their tag teams are kind of samey. There's not a lot of diversity in that. Their tag teams, a lot of them are all pretty spot heavy teams. So I kind of want to see some television to maybe flush that out. I need some TV to understand their characters throughout the company a little bit more. Who's heel, who's babyface. So here, this kind of just feels like a fundraising card. That and I think the Rhodes brothers. I thought they were a great tag team in the WWE when they were teaming together. Dustin Rhodes is still was one of the best face team. It's perfect for Cody because he's technically the star of the team, but Dustin can carry the heat, make the hot tag to freaking Cody. Cody can run wild, look like the star. So I'm expecting good things from them. It's really tag team centric in a way, tag team heavy. We'll see what happens. But I'm really waiting for their TV to really flesh out a lot of the things I have complaints about because I really want to understand on what they're doing exactly.
Yeah, I agree. I actually like. I don't want to say I like SoCal. Well, first of all, I love Frankie K. I always have. But I've said this to Nate and to Steve, and I'll say it again. I think they have a hidden gem in Scorpio Sky. I think that guy's awesome.
No, I totally agree there. I feel he should be the young guy the company's pushing, and not Adam Page. I think Scorpio Sky has top guy potential. And they're actually kind of hiding him in that tag function. And Adam Page is the one they're pushing, and I get that because he was part of the original group, and I feel Scorpio Sky should have that spot. But a lot of people are a lot more higher on Adam Page than I am.
I don't think he's that bad, and I think Scorpio Sky will eventually, branch out. I think they're trying to keep it pretty tight in that aspect. Anything this weekend, Nate, for the show that's jumping out at you?
Yeah, I think it'll be a solid show. I think it'll be a lot more traditional and reined in than Fyter Fest, which kind of due to the nature of teaming up with the video game convention was goofy at a lot of points and silly at a lot of points. But I don't think you'll see as much of that on this card. I think Sonny Kiss will probably get a good little showcase, and I like Sonny Kiss. He reminds me of if somebody had a weird genetic machine and was able to splice genes from Adrian Street and Ricochet, and they created Sonny Kiss.
Yes, that's tremendous. I love Sonny Kiss. I think it's great.
I think he'll get a good little showcase against Peter Avalon. That SoCal Uncensored Lucha Brothers match should be good, just because I don't think I've seen in the last 2.5, 3 years of watching the Lucha Brothers, I don't think I've seen a match with them that has been bad. Some have been better than others. Some have been, disappointed at times, but I don't think I've ever seen a bad match from the Lucha Brothers. So I think that'll be a solid match. And then the Rhodes Brothers and the Young Bucks should be good. So it's not like a card that you have to go out of your way to see, but if you're interested in AEW and just kind of want a placeholder till they get to All Out, I think it'll be a good show. It'll be solid.
And it's for a good cause.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, of course it is. That's the best part, obviously.
Yes, I am interested to see, though, because they're obviously raising money in Jacksonville, but I wonder if there'll be like a telethon type of component to it. Since you've got all these eyes, why wouldn't you want to maximize what you could raise and put up a hotline or text such and such to send $10 to this foundation or whatever.
Right. No, I agree. I think they are going to do that, by the way, too. I do. We're not going to see. So, like I said, we're not going to see Moxley. I don't think we're going to see Jericho. Maybe. I think the big heel beatdown we'll have is I think MJF's going to attack Paige either during or after the match with Kip Fabian. So we'll see.
And honestly, I don't know why they're doing a buy-in for this show, but it feels like this buy-in. You ask why some of those matches, particularly that 6-man, was on the pre-show, Scotty. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a deliberate reaction to the last 2 pre-shows, which have kind of universally been seen as the worst parts of Double or Nothing and Fyter Fest.
Yeah, the argument is, why would you want to buy something after seeing that wretched stuff?
So I think that's why they kind of switched it up, and they're like, well, we'll put something strong and traditional on in this 6-man match instead of Michael Nakazawa versus that Jabali dude.
Yeah. Gee. Oh my God. Yeah. Let's hope that they realize that experiment failed miserably. All right. On that same evening, that you could check on the WWE Network, Evolve will be celebrating their 10th anniversary, and this show will be at the 2300 Arena in Philly, of course, otherwise known as the old ECW Arena. Here's the card. There's 9 matches. Now, most of these people I don't know. I'm gonna flat out admit it, but at least I can pronounce most of their names. Brandi Lauren will take on Shotzi Blackheart. I love that name. Eddie Kingston. We know who Eddie Kingston is, and there's a guy that I think will open up a lot of eyes for WWE for WWE viewers. He's teaming with Joe Gacy to defend the Evolve Tag Team's titles against AR Fox and Leon Ruff. And in their corner will be Ayla and the Skulk. Whoever the Skulk is, but I like the name. In a fatal 4-way match, Kurt Stallion, that's Pete's name at hotels, Sean Maluda, Stephen Wolf, and Harlem Bravado, that's Nate's name at hotels. That's what I'm calling you from now on, Nate. That's a very lethal name, Harlem Bravado. Babatunde, I just like that name, will take on Colby Carino. I don't know if there's any relation.
It's Steve's kid.
It's his kid, right? I thought so. In a singles match. Anthony Henry will take on Arturo Ruas in a grudge match. In a winner-take-all for both the WWN and Evolve Championship, J.D. Drake, who has the WWN title, will take on Austin Theory, who's the Evolve champion. Josh Briggs will take on Anthony Green in a The Future Is Now showcase match. And then the WWE participation, Drew Gulak will take on Matt Riddle in a Catch Point reunion match. And in the main event, or the match that'll probably be last, unless they do Drake and Theory, Adam Cole is defending the NXT Championship against Akira Tozawa. Where do you get this card, Pete?
It's okay. I'm curious on what the numbers will be, on how many people watch this thing. I'm curious on Cole versus Tozawa. I think that should be really interesting. I've always been a big proponent of Matt Riddle. Austin Theory, he's on the WWE's radar, so that
Yep.
should be working hard. Anthony Henry, I've never seen him phone in a match, so I know that guy works his ass off. So I think you're going to see a lot of guys knowing that it's on the WWE network.
Mm-hmm.
There's not going to be any cutting corners. They're gonna throw everything at the wall. I think it might even be a detriment because I think they're going to be It's going to be go, and then go some more. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's not because if anyone has a bad match, it's not because they aren't trying hard.
Anything stand out for you here, Nate, for this show?
I think it'll be a solid show, but I kind of look at it, if this were a Marvel movie, this would kind of be like, that Ant-Man, Captain Marvel level of movie for me, where I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to see it eventually, but I don't need to rush out and see it the first weekend.
Right.
It's not Avengers. It's not, Civil War. It's not Black Panther. It's not Spider-Man. So it's like, I'll wait. Eventually I'll watch it and I'm sure I'll enjoy it because there's a lot of good young talent on this card. I think I might be the most interested to see how Eddie Kingston behaves and is presented on this card. That yes, this is Evolved, but it's ostensibly a WWE network production because it's airing on their network. And so I want to see Eddie Kingston, what the hell he's got up his sleeve for this show.
Yeah. And I mean, the AEW trolls are like pissing and moaning, but honestly, more people are going to watch. If you ask me right now, what are more people going to watch live? They'll watch Fight for the Fallen live because they can watch the Evolve. The Evolve will hit it'll go under extras or Vault. It'll go under the Vault in the archive.
Vault.
Yeah. It'll go in the Vault.
I was more excited for the Great American Bash 86 cards that hit than I am for this Evolve show.
I know. Yeah. Or the Crockett Cup. So the AEW should just stop whining. They'll get their viewers. Problem is BR Live is not great in terms of their strength of signal. I had a lot of internet spinning during Fyter Fest. It wasn't too bad during Double or Nothing, but during Fyter Fest I was getting a lot of, and my internet's really good. I put the network on or I put anything else on, I don't have a problem. So obviously AEW is going to have to work with Bleacher Report and get that situation figured out.
I'm a little surprised that the TNT YouTube doesn't stream it because TNT has done a lot in terms of whether it's Twitter or whether it was their YouTube page airing the Double or Nothing pre-show. I'm surprised TNT hadn't kind of taken that over because they seem to have less technical problems than that Bleacher Report.
That seems interesting.
Yeah. No, the Double or Nothing wasn't too bad for the most part. But Fyter Fest, I was watching it with the doctor, Dr. G.
Yeah.
His house, and it was a struggle. And I don't know if you were paying attention to our chats that night, Nate, and Pete, because I know you're both in them. But a lot of people were having some issues. So
I don't know. Maybe it was just the issue of them not knowing the audience that they were going to get, and they weren't prepared for it. Also,
in general, I mean, here in the Northeast, we had some thunderstorms. That might have hurt a little bit, but yeah, I could see it. Fight for the Fallen. Let's put it this way, guys. Fyter Fest and Fight for the Fallen are free, so I can't really bitch about the connectivity. But you bet your ass if I'm paying $50 on August 31st, that fucking thing better not spin once. All right, so AEW has 7 weeks to get that shit worked out because I'm not paying $50 to watch spinning at All Out. I'll tell you right now. So, anyway.
That's when you place a call to your cable company in nefarious means, Scotty.
Nefarious means. All right, so there's the Evolve show. All right, finally, let's talk about Sunday night in Philly, also in Philly, which makes sense since Gulak will be defending the Cruiserweight title the next night. So Extreme Rules at the Wells Fargo Arena, which I was at a year and a half ago for the Royal Rumble. Here's your card, 10 matches. Looks like none of them on the pre-show. I'm sure one of these is going to be on the pre-show. The Revival will defend the Raw Tag titles against the Usos. Braun Strowman against Bobby Lashley in a last man standing match. Ricochet will defend the United States title against AJ Styles. Aleister Black will face Cesaro. Daniel Bryan and Rowan will defend the blue belts, the SmackDown tag titles against the New Day and Heavy Machinery in a triple threat tag. The aforementioned Drew Gulak will defend the Cruiserweight title against Tony Nese, the former champion. Bayley will defend the women's title, SmackDown women's title, against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross in a handicap match. Kofi Kingston will defend the WWE title against Samoa Joe. The Undertaker and Roman Reigns will face Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre in a no-holds-barred tag team match. And not in the main event, because I think the Taker tag will be the main event, Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch will face Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans in a last chance winners-take-all mixed tag Extreme Rules match for both the WWE Universal and WWE Raw Women's Championship. Now, I didn't realize that was the stip, because I've been saying all along that I thought this was the one chance that Lacey Evans might have had to win the women's title from Becky, because, maybe ref's not looking, Baron hits end of days on her, and Lacey pins her. But if it's winner take all where the winning team gets both belts, that ain't happening. Corbin's not winning the Universal belt. So so that's not happening. That would have been a great way to give her the belt, but this isn't happening. Pete, is there anything that sticks out at you?
Everything until you start getting to the main events. That undercard seems really loaded. I mean, AJ and Ricochet should be off the charts if they give them the time. The Revival and Usos should be a lot of fun. Cesaro and Black seem like it could be one hell of a banger again if they don't give them only 6 minutes. Say that's a match that deserves 15 minutes, 16 minutes. So there's a lot to like. It's when they get into the cutesy stuff. Like, I really don't want to see Bayley in a handicap match. I don't care. Undertaker, at this point, I'm rest in peace, brother. You're a legend. I don't need him in a tag match, especially with Shane against Shane McMahon. We saw that at Mania. And then I'm not in love with Rollins Becky real life romance coming onto my screen. But God, the undercard is loaded. Kofi and Samoa Joe, that should be one hell of a match. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to like on that thing, and then there's some stuff that they could do well, but I just have no interest in those gimmick matches on top.
Mm. What about you, Nate? What are you looking? We won't go match by match. Anything stick out at you that you're looking forward to Sunday? Yeah,
I tend to agree with Pete. This card is like, if this card were a steak dinner, it'd be like a really nice cut of steak with a tiny teaspoon of some really good au gratin potatoes, and then somebody just put like 3 ladles full of lima beans on the plate. like I don't need your lima beans, Shane McMahon. I don't need your lima beans, Baron Corbin. I don't need your lima beans, Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman. But I do think like the matches that are good will be really good. Like, I think the Revival and the Usos could be a sleeper match. If they give them the amount of time to have a really good match. I'm really looking forward to Kofi and Joe. Like, I think those two can have a hell of a match together. Honestly, I think the triple threat for the SmackDown tag title should be really good. And so there's a lot to like on the Extreme Rules card. I just think when your main event match is kind of just there and there's not really a lot of enthusiasm behind it, in part because of this on-screen relationship that I think has weakened both Becky and Seth's characters, but also Baron Corbin. Like, I think if Lacey had a different partner that I could believe might win the Universal title, maybe. But I don't think there's any way in hell. Like, Toru Yano has a better chance of winning the G1 than Baron Corbin winning the damn undisputed title, Scotty.
That's funny. I'm looking forward to Aleister Black and Cesaro. I think that'll be a really great match.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that match. Does Drew McIntyre pin Taker, Nate?
Ooh. That's interesting. That's really interesting, because I guess the question to that then is, how much does Taker have left, and how many more of these Taker matches are we going to get?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do want to set something up for a SummerSlam, maybe, then I could see that being a possibility. or this could just be, you know, a Taker match where he comes in, hits his spots, and then that's that. And, you know, it didn't really make sense for him to be inserted into this feud. So maybe as nonsensically as he appeared, he will disappear equally as nonsensically, and we'll get back to Roman and Shane, the never-ending feud. But it's interesting. Like, to me, that's a match that I can't really predict, because it would behoove the storyline for the heels to win, but Taker being in it, it could just be, you know, your nostalgia squash match where Shane gets tagged in and he's left to the Wolves, and Taker just kind of takes him out. So that'll be interesting. I don't know if it'll be the best match or the prettiest match, Pete, but it should be interesting. Yeah,
it's like, you know, like WWE has a history of guys showing up and like The Rock at Mania and beating up the crap out of some of their current stars, and it's like, why? I know. You got to come back tomorrow. The Rock is getting on his private jet and flying out to wherever. And that's kind of how I feel with Taker. Why? I mean, his aura, he's already protected. Him doing a job, it doesn't matter. And I don't think it's so weird. And there's so many outside forces now. And it's like, to me, like, I think Drew McIntyre is a guy who could be a feature of the company.
Well, they've got a match with 4 people they want to protect, because they want to protect Shane. They want to protect Roman, obviously. Taker, like he said, is a made guy in the company, but still they want to protect Taker. And Drew is somebody who they've shown. Like, he got a big win over Kurt Angle. Like, Drew is somebody who they obviously have plans for. So it's almost like they've booked themselves into this thing where you can't protect everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think this is good. I think the show is not too bad. I mean, a lot of AEW trolls think this card's going to suck, and that's just not fair. And I think we're going to have. I have a feeling SummerSlam will end up being a very interesting card coming out of this. So, in any event, guys, we have endless wrestling we've had endless wrestling all week, and isn't really that all that matters? Just endless wrestling. 5. How great does it be to be alive and be a wrestling fan right now? 5 promotions. 5. Have huge shows in the span of 8 days.
As a wrestling fan, you should be able to find something you like on top.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
It's just like, you've got to be just the anti-wrestling fan, the one who just complains and complains and complains and complains. Yeah. You can't find something you enjoy. To me, there's styles for everybody out there, and if you can't find it on one of these 5 shows, I have no hope for you finding it.
No, there isn't.
I mean, there's always going to be that fan out there that's just like, give me more. This isn't good enough. Give me more. And it's
go back to Fortnite.
Yeah.
Pull the shades. Play Fortnite. Eat pork rinds. Pete, you're awesome. Thanks for coming on, man. Where can we find you? I feel like you've retired.
It seems like it.
Miss Titans, man.
So
Miss
do we.
Titans.
So Pete is our Undertaker then, I guess.
Yes. Yes. Except Pete lets us put him over instead of the other way around. When other guys come on, they want to get put over. Well, Pete, you know you're always welcome here, and you know that for a fact. So, and I know we haven't had you on JR and I haven't had a chance to have you on a Place to Be podcast vault in a while, but we actually like our MSG house show, so we really don't want the kiss of mush to come on and get. We try to avoid getting you the December shows, so.
Yeah, well, you guys usually book me on the really bad one.
I know, yeah. We'll get you on a good one. We promise. We got some coming up. Pete, always a pleasure. Pete Schirmacher, everybody, the sheriff. We'll have him back. Oh, by the way, I know we'll have you back. When's the summer tennis? Your guys' big summer stuff coming up. The
SCI.
SCI. Got to get you and BZ on. I got to get BZ his debut.
Yeah, it's coming on next month. So August. I think it's 3rd and 4th. I know I fly out July. No, it's August 2nd because I'm flying out July 31st. So.
Okay. Well, you know what? We'll have to have you and our man Ben Zanni. Got to make his debut. We'll have to have you guys on.
Staying at his house, so yeah, that'd be great.
Excellent. We'll have you and Ben on maybe the week after and talk about the SCI. I'm kind of pumped about it. Definitely.
Sounds good.
Pete Schirmacher, everybody, the sheriff. He's awesome. When we return here on Place to Be Nation's main event, the Conscience will join us, Steve Wille, and it is time for our next edition of the New Japan Classic Match Picks. We'll have Pete back on for that down the line as well. Brother Nate, Brother Scott, Steve-O, after the break.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Place to Be Nations, JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have over 24 podcasts available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com. We now offer them to you on 2 great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, we dive into topics running the gamut from today's WWE to the glory days of yesteryear and the ins and outs of the territory days. In addition to our full-length shows, we also deliver to you special pod blasts on topics old and new.
The Place to Be Nation Pop feed is a veritable treasure trove of great content, offering tremendous shows covering the land of movies, television, life, comics, and sports, brought to you by the most knowledgeable and insightful folks in the podcast world.
You can find all of these current shows, plus archives of our previous podcasts over the past 8 years as well, by subscribing to our feeds on iTunes. And while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others available at PlaceToBeNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth stretch projects and more. Be sure to support our site by using www.placetobeNation.com/Amazon while doing your online shopping. And be sure to join us at our forum at bigelow34.proboards.com for all sorts of wrestling, sports, and pop culture discussion each and every day, where you can make your voice heard. We also want to thank our friends at Bonehead's Wing Bar, ProWrestlingOnly.com, and TheHistoryOfWrestling.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. Electric word, life, it means forever, and that's a mighty long time. But I'm here to tell you, there's something else. The afterworld. A world of never-ending happiness. You can always see the sun, day or night. So when you call up that shrink in Beverly Hills, you know the one, doctor, everything will be alright. Instead of asking how much of your time is left, ask him how much of your mind, baby. Cause in this life, things are much harder than in the afterworld. This life, you're on your own. And if the elevator tries to break you down, go crazy, find your higher floor.
We are back on Place to Be Nation's main event, episode number 130. And of course, this is the Steph Curry episode, but that should be no surprise to you dear listeners out there, because as you know, the main event has been Steph Curry with the shot, been cooking with the sauce, Chef Curry with the pot boy. And speaking of something else that is hot and ready for the people, before we get into our New Japan Classic match picks for the week, I want to send a quick shout out to the patrons of the Kings of Sport Patreon. And for those of you that aren't a part of the family, the patronage of the Kings of Sport Patreon, I'm not going to shame you. I'm not going to throw shade in your direction, but I will apply some friendly peer pressure and let you know that there's a lot of good stuff on the Kings of Sport Patreon, including video editions of the Kings of Sport podcast. We've got special editions of the podcast where we talk about NBA free agency and some of the big moves made this summer so far. We've got some MCU reviews up right now. We've got a video review of Avengers Endgame up, and there should be a Spider-Man Far From Home review up before the end of the week. We've also got our political show, The 20 Twin, which is a show which chronicles all of the candidates for the 2020 presidential election, including the reigning, defending, undisputed political champ in America right now, Donald J. Trump. So the most recent episode is myself and Christopher Marquise Ely, who is a political science professor out in L.A., who we talked about Julian Castro. And we talked about his candidacy. And then so if you're into politics or sports or the MCU, there's something for you on the Kings of Sport Patreon. So check it out. Patreon.com/Kings of Sport. And now I will pass the talking stick over to my tag team partner here, not Marcus Vanderberg, but Brother Scotty. Brother Scotty, let the people know what's going on Place to Be Nation.
Oh, that is exactly true, and I'm glad you're talking about Julian Castro and not Fidel Castro. He'd be a terrible candidate. So, of course...
he was great in that Simpsons episode, though.
Exactly, yes. When they wanted to shave Don Mattingly's mustache. Or was that a different episode? Anyway.
No, that was the episode where Burns had the $1 trillion bill.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of the episode where... Yeah,
because they go to Cuba because they're not allowed to keep the money in America. And Fidel's like, oh, can I just see it one time? And Burns lets him see the $1 trillion bill. And he's like, okay, Fidel, give it back. And he's like, give what back?
And then, of course, there's the softball ringer episode where Ken Griffey Jr.'s head almost explodes.
Ozzie Smith falls into the House of Mystery.
House of Mystery. Ryan Sandberg saves a bunch of people in a burning house. Was that him? I think so. Don Mattingly shaved his weird head.
Sandberg got arrested.
Sandberg got arrested.
Ken Seiko was the guy that saved everybody, all the stuff out of the house.
That's right.
That was a great episode.
It was a great episode, actually. Still probably the number one animated series of all time. But I tell you, I'm rewatching it now, guys, because I bought the sexy-looking Blu-ray set. Batman the Animated Series is an all-timer. It's an all-timer. Well, first off, why are we leaving him out in the cold? Ladies and gentlemen, he's here. It's the B-Block. He's awesome. The conscience of Place to Be Nation. Mr. Steve Wille. I don't know if you were afraid that Sheriff Pete was going to dip you in barbecue sauce, and that's why you didn't come to the
always a Sandberg, Ozzy, you're talking my language right there.
Absolutely, all of us. So, Steve, since you were in the A block, before I get to the live read, are there any number 30s you think we're missing? We mentioned, obviously, all the NBA 30s. The first two teams in the great career of Nolan Ryan. He wore 30 with the Mets. He wore 30 with the Angels. Stump Mitchell. I got Pete on that one. Any 30s I'm missing? Any Blackhawks?
Well, we do have one of the best goalies of the 90s, Eddie the Eagle Belfour.
Eddie B.
I know you're a jersey junkie. I got his autographed jersey up in my room.
That's tremendous. Love Eddie B. Yeah.
And
he went to the other side, didn't he?
Yeah. And since we're talking about podcasts that Nate does, he does a show for Post Wrestling that reviews Rocky Maivia movies, correct? So you have to think about the other Rock of MLB baseball, Tim Raines, former Expos, White Sox.
Yep. Nate mentioned Tim in the A block. Can't forget the Rock. Okay, we thought you had more. All right, you can leave now. And
take Maglio Ordonez with you.
Yeah, Maglio.
You got Bernard King at least, right?
Yes, we did get Bernard. I mentioned
yes,
Bernard.
Pete could not contain his enthusiasm when Bernard King was brought up.
Yes. All right. Anyway, gentlemen, of course, besides the awesome Kings of Sport, please, I am a Patreon sponsor and proud to be. Let's go to the PTBN pop feed first. The Sarcastic Four continue their look at 1971 with the second of their three-part episode of Marble Age. On the 30th episode, look at that. We're talking about number 30. They're 100 behind us, but that's still okay. On the 30th episode of Songs with Friends, Steve and Kelly pay tribute to 1994, which, of course, is a running theme on PlaceToBeNation.com. The Hard Traveling Fanboys continue Spider-Man month with their review of the latest MCU film, Spider-Man Far From Home. DC For You continues its celebration of Superman with a look at the classic Alan Moore, Kurt Swan story, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. Geek and Sassy welcomes Tim Capel to recap Season 2 and preview, which, of course, you can now watch, Season 3 of Stranger Things. I've not gotten to it yet. No spoilers. Join Glenn Butler and his brother Scott as they discuss and debate the Democratic hopefuls for the upcoming presidential election.
That is a good listen.
A new spectacular, of course, a good compendium to what Nate did on in the Patreon. On a new episode of NBA Team Podcast, Adam Murray and Andrew Reich are here to reflect on what has been quite the last week in NBA land. And as we speak, guys, another trade went down. Russell Westbrook is now a Rocket. Traded to the Rockets for Chris Paul. Chris Paul now in Oklahoma City. I guarantee you that will not last.
Yeah, that's not going to stick.
Whatsoever. In any event,
this is how Chris Paul finally ends up with the Lakers, which is what he wanted 7 years ago.
7 years ago, when David Stern thought it was, quote, not fair. Oh yeah, like we've done a lot in the last 7 fucking years. Thanks, David Stern. We haven't made the playoffs in 5 years, so we have the greatest player in the league, and we couldn't make the fucking play.
That's not a great trade. Now, this is the first time I'm hearing of this, Scotty, and my initial reaction is, Russell Westbrook is not going to play the 2 guard. And so that means Harden's going to have to move.
Well, let me find the full trade. It was on one of our chats.
I don't see how that's going to work.
Let me find. It's on our chat. If you want to take, I think what's his name is Adrian Woj, the Mauro Ronaldo lookalike that does the NBA for ESPN.
Oklahoma City also got first rounders in 24 and 26, and then they're swapping picks in 21 and 25.
So I don't know what this is about.
Yeah, I think this is how we end up with Paul in LA, because the big thing for the Lakers was they didn't have enough to get Chris Paul, but now they got 2 first rounders from this deal, and they also got, I think, 2 more first rounders from when they traded Paul George to the Clippers. So they're stocked on draft picks and young players, so now they can trade away Paul to the Lakers for like some cap relief or something like that.
I think so too. But we'll talk more about that. And of course, Andrew and Adam Murray will talk about that.
That's a weird trade for Houston, though.
It is a very weird trade. Yep. It is a very weird trade. I agree 100%.
It's like the reason James Harden ran away to Houston was because he didn't want to be around Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, definitely a reason why that team is not together anymore.
Maybe they want to get rid of James Harden.
I mean, then again, James Harden and Chris Paul started to get a little friction, so maybe absence makes the heart grow fonder, and Harden hates Russ less than he hates Chris Paul now.
Maybe.
And I want to see Russell Westbrook in those State Farm commercials now.
Exactly. Well, after he set the Chris Paul's house on fire and then had the beard.
Maybe that was a shoot. That was a shoot.
It was a shoot. The beard silhouette. Okay. All right. And, of course, also going on right now. Well, let me quickly get through the wrestling feed. Tim, Jenny, and Greg are back with a brand new Talking WCW as they look at War Games. My PIC, Mr. Rozzero, and Chad Campbell open up the 1996 pay-per-view year with a look at the Royal Rumble on the latest Wrestling War Zone. Jenny Smith, Drew Wardlaw, and Matt Souza, the Susanator, Suzless, Mr. Mozambique, gathered to break down the 1986 Crockett Cup, which is now on the WWE Network. Yep. In the 10th episode of Row 1, Seat 1, Ben Zanny, who will begin making his debut here at Main Event in a few weeks, welcomes documentary filmmaker and wrestling superfan John Villapafage. I always see him on Twitter, and I just like saying his name, Villapavage, to the podcast. And, so there you go. PlaceBeNation.com's PTBN tribute to 1994 is off and running. Pieces on the Best Picture nominees for the Academy Awards, the 1994 World Cup, etc. The miniseries The Stand, and, of course, you heard that Songs of Friends, Steve and Selfie Steve and Kelly did 1994 as well. Check out the message board at bigelow34.proboards.com to continue the GWWE pay-per-view and TV match ever project. Get in on the conversation today. Of course, we're treating that like the greatest wrestler and the greatest tag team. We go all the way to the end of the calendar year. All right, and of course, the greatest song of the 80s tournament continues. 6 polls a day posted for round 1. You can get in on the action on Facebook by searching PTBN's greatest song of the 80s tournament and liking the page, and be sure to weigh in. Gentlemen, I was talking to Mr. Atherton, and I said, it'd be pretty smart. Maybe every podcast that's recording, maybe they can do a little preview release of the next day's matchups. Maybe we can have a little handicap in here, gentlemen. All right, here we go. Here are the 6 matchups. Tonight is we're recording. So if you're listening to this when it posts, it's Friday, July 12th. So let's take a look at the matchups for tomorrow or today if you're listening. Ready for this? Just Can't Get Enough, Depeche Mode. Oh, we know what Steve's voting for. Versus Dance Hall Days by Wang Chung. Interesting.
That's got to be a Depeche Mode, because that's just a deep Wang Chung cut. Which
you
is
say
not
it's a deep Wang Chung cut, but really they're like 3 Wang Chung songs.
Yeah. That is not a phrase that's ever been spoken. So it's got to be Depeche Mode.
Yeah. I like Dance Hall Days though. It's a catchy tune.
It is a catchy tune.
I dig this era of Depeche Mode. Like People Are People, Just Can't Get Enough. So I'm going with Depeche Mode.
Yes, I may be voting for Depeche Mode as well. This one's a tough one. I got to admit. Pride and Joy, Stevie Ray Vaughan, SRV, versus Dirty Diana. by the King. Dirty Diana. A great fucking song. Obviously not his best, but
man,
I think I'm going MJ on this one. Even though I love me some Stevie Ray Vaughan, I think like whenever MJ gets into I'm gonna have electric rock guitar in my song mode, it's always a treat.
yes, I'm voting for SRV only because there's better Michael songs.
Yeah.
Michael can, just my opinion, Michael can be sacrificed on this one because I have a Michael song winning the whole thing. So it's not this one though.
that's the only reason I'd go with Stevie Ray Vaughan, where that's his probably most famous song, and there's several more. Although I really do like Dirty Diana. It's Michael Jackson is a tough one considering all we know now. Well, we knew all along.
Well, yeah, sure. All right, number 3. This one. This one blows. Arguably my favorite song by this guy from the Purple Rain soundtrack, Let's Go Crazy. Fucking A. Versus Saving All My Love by Whitney. Hachi Machi Whitney. I love Whitney. But this is kind of the same thing as Dirty Diana. I got to go with Prince's best song against Whitney's like 4th best song. Yeah,
I was going to say like anything from Purple Rain is going to be a tough out. Mm-hmm. In this competition, just because that is one of the most important albums of the decade.
Absolutely.
And it's just great. And Saving All My Love is a good song, but it doesn't even compare to Want to Dance with Somebody.
Right.
Some of her other 80s hits. So, yeah, I'm going Prince on this one.
Yeah.
No doubt. King of Minnesota.
Oh, this is a Nate Wheelhouse versus a Steve Wheelhouse.
Ooh.
Tone Loc's Funky Cole Medina versus Kids in America by Kim Wilde. That's such a silly song right there. We're the kids in America.
Everyone. First of all, Tone Loc just announced for StarCast with
really?
At Joey Janela's After All Out show.
Wow.
Oh, that may do it for me. That's better than WrestleMania weekend right there. Oh, God.
Tone Loc hitting up my hometown of Schaumburg, Illinois. If only that happened in 1989 when I did have that cassette. So I have to go with Tone Loc.
Yeah. Now that you put the StarCast component in here, I think that's put Tone Loc over the top.
All right.
At least Janelle's gonna be with a real rapper, unlike the run in the ad with Enzo this past week.
Jeez. All right. What You Need by In Excess.
Oh.
Or as a friend of mine who's very, very, very young said, INEX.
Oh, no.
I said, thank you, Tish. You just called In Excess a bioterrorism group. INEX just blew up this factory.
Come on,
versus
Tish. Get it together.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, I love Tish, but my God, she shows her age. She's like 11. No, she's not. Versus, are you ready for this? Oh, this is delicious. I think I may have to find this and play this as the out bed tonight. The Message.
Oh my God.
Grandmaster Flash and the Furious fucking 5, baby. Come on, Nate. Come on, that's
not even close. Out of all of these, this might be the easiest one for me because NXS is cool. I dig a lot of their stuff, but The Message is one of the most, again, using this word, one of the most important hip hop songs ever. So yeah, I'm going in with the Furious 5.
Gotta go with the Furious fucking 5. Yeah, I got it here. Better NXS songs.
As much as I love INEX.
I can't wait to tell. I can say to her I called her out on that.
God.
INEX.
I want a personal apology.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no doubt. The Message. If you guys haven't read the Beastie Boys book already, it is a long read, and the first 20 pages are hard to get through. But the amount of love they have for old school punk and old school rap that defines them is just incredible.
Well,
so
anything
just a great read.
Well, anything
tapes at the end that you can make and their favorite songs. Just a wonderful read.
I gotta get it. Oh, I love anything. And I said this to Andy. I'm gonna rig it so anything off License to Ill gets at least 3 or 4 rounds. Anything where any album where you could put it in the mirror and read "Eat Me." Come on. I mean, come on. All right, and the final matchup for the Friday the 12th, another tough one. Hit me with your best shot, Pat Benatar. When Dubs Cry. I hate to say it. I love you, Pat.
King of Minnesota all day, every day.
If Let's Go Crazy is like number 1, When Doves Cry is probably number 2, and Purple Rain's probably number 3.
And I think you could put those 3 songs in any order.
Yeah, I just thought the same thing. It's like 1A, 1B, 1C.
Yeah. And I think, like, the problem with Hit Me With Your Best Shot, which is a great 80s song, is that it's been over-commercialized.
Yes, it has.
Whereas Prince's music is the exact extreme opposite of that. Like, his music is, well, it was until he died. Now it's getting a little more out there. But his music was so tightly guarded that it didn't get overexposed.
Yeah, very closely protected his stuff, which...
Like I could turn on the TV right now and watch a chili spot with Hit Me With Your Best Spot in the background. Hit Me With Your Best Shot in the background. It's like, I don't want to think about blooming onions or mozzarella sticks when I'm thinking about this song.
Oh, my God. I know what Nate, we need Zaxby's to get like a little Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5. That's what they need.
It's chicken wings everywhere.
Anyway, that's the matchups. But please, every day, 6 new matchups for the greatest song of the 80s tournament. Good job by Andy Atherton getting it going. And
Is that right?
it's a high. Of course, he just dropped his 11th podcast with Miranda. They just did Pop Goes the Movies for Toy Story 4. I had a question today. One more music question, gentlemen, and then we'll dive in. We promise, Steve, we will talk about your matches. I promise. I promise.
It's fine. I actually talk this all day too.
All right. Can I make a suggestion? I was listening to some awesome 1980s. Speaking of, and this actually is relevant to what we're talking about because I mentioned Dirty Diana. Can there be an argument? I'm not saying is there. Can there be an argument that Bad is better than Thriller? Is there? Is there an argument that Bad is better than Thriller? I don't know. But Bad, I mean, think of Bad. You have Bad. You have Man in the Mirror.
Yep.
You have Dirty Diana. You have The Way You Make Me Feel. Way You Make Me Feel. I love that video, too. I mean, there's a shit ton of hits on that album. And honestly,
you're leaving off maybe the best song of that album, Smooth Criminal.
Oh, Smooth Criminal. I thought that was on Dangerous.
See, I thought you were talking about the singles at first. You're talking about the entire album.
Yeah, the entire album.
Yeah, Smooth Criminal, Leave Me Alone, Another Part of Me, Liberian Girl, which is just a weird, underrated Michael Jackson song.
Boom, 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 boom. Revolutionized by Alien Ant Farm, by the way. Of course, that got played to fucking death with the weird
Honestly,
guy.
I think overall, Bad's a better album. But the heights of Thriller are higher than the highs of Bad. We've got Billie Jean, Beat It, Thriller, of course, and You Want to Be Starting Something.
And arguably, maybe my favorite Michael song of all time, Human Nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got 7 out of 9 singles, that made top 40.
Yeah.
I don't think Baby Be Mine and Lady of My Life did.
No.
There are 7
you got The Girl Is Mine. I forgot. You got the duet with Paul.
Paul, the girl is mine. Oh no, Michael, the girl is mine, mate.
Know what she told you? I don't believe. That's like Nate.
That's their worst collaboration though, because Say is a million times better than that one.
Yes, but
video is really funky.
Yeah, they both
for that
pale
one.
in comparison to Ebony and Ivory.
But I would say overall, I think just as a complete piece, Bad might be a shade better than Thriller, even though Thriller is amazing.
Interesting. Anyway, I was talking about that with somebody today.
It's also two different. Thriller is Michael, who's been a star, but this is kind of his coming out party, and then Bad is Michael 2 years later or however long it was, dealing with he's at his peak, at his prime, and he's dealing with all this. So we get Leave Me Alone, where he's mad at the press. And
yeah, 4 years later.
Yeah, 4 years later.
4 years. That's crazy, right? Thriller came out in '83. Bad didn't come out till '87. I think I was in high school. Did I have?
Yeah, 'cause I think he did. I think Jackson 5 got back in between then.
Well, yeah. Read the.
It was 84.
Because Joe wanted money. Michael, you're great. Get back with your brothers and let's do a victory tour.
Well, and his next one, Dangerous, was 4 years after Bad.
Yeah.
Come on, Michael. Yeah, and pretty much 4 years after that was History. Was there anyone who didn't own Thriller?
Thriller is it's one of the few Halloweens. Well, it's been co-opted by Halloween, but it's one of the few Halloween songs you can play year round.
Yeah, for sure.
So, plenty of Michael, plenty of Prince. Check out the matchups at PlaceToBeNation.com. I'm sorry, on Facebook for the 80s tournament. Great job by Andy Atherton. All right, enough music. Well, I had plenty of music to do for beds tonight, at least. It is time now for the newest installment of the New Japan Classic Match Picks. Brother Steve, you had the shoe, and I like your picks, man. You kind of went outside the box here and did two matches from a guy that another New Japan alum who is now in WWE under one of the banners. Tell us, my friend, what do we have this week?
Well, we have two matches by the new NXT star Kushida, who was in New Japan for years and years and years, and really never got a chance to get above the junior heavyweight level, and turned 36 and was like, hey, I gotta try something new. I gotta take a chance on myself. Moved to the United States a couple months ago, and here he is on NXT. So for those who are not familiar with his older work, I wanted to go back and see a couple matches that I really haven't seen, because it was before New Japan was on Access and before there was New Japan World. It was kind of at the end of that. And I also wanted to take a little bit of our look at his tag team work, because I know Nate and I are huge fans of Alex Shelley and the Motor City Machine Guns. And Alex, when he was in Japan, tagged with Kushida as the Time Splitters, a very similar team to Motor City Machine Guns. And little did I know that something very important happened in the match that I picked, because I want to be clear and full disclosure, I had no idea that what happened at the end of the match happened. I just took it because it looked like it was going to be a good match with a couple WWE stars and Alex Shelley and then the Funky Weapon. So we have the Time Splitters of Alex Shelley and Kushida against Ryusuke Taguchi, the Funky Weapon, and Prince Devitt, Chad Campbell's favorite wrestler of all time.
Indeed.
I think this was
fluffy hair and all.
Yeah, he has Prince Devitt has the John Cena 2019 haircut.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Speaking of Cena, if you want to, see what he's up to these days, are you smarter than a fifth grader on Nickelodeon?
Yes.
I saw had a inadvertent binge of that on Monday, and yeah, I think he's got a career, and I don't think he's going to come back much to the WWE.
Yeah, Nickelodeon's been very smart, because my nieces are up here for the summer, and we've spent a lot of time watching not only that show, Steve, but also the rebooted All That.
Oh, wow.
And it's like they know how to hook the millennials that are watching, or the kids that are watching, and also their Generation X parents or uncles or aunts. Because I'm sitting there like, I don't really want to watch this. And then all of a sudden, we've got Lori Beth Denberg with Vital Information. I'm like, I'm in.
And we can't forget about Mark Summers rebooting Double Dare as well.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
Is
so
he
John
rebooting
Cena
the Candy
fits
Show?
right in.
Also had the New Day on it recently.
Yep.
So it all ties together to professional wrestling.
Is he redoing the Candy Show on Food Network or whatever the hell Mark Summers did?
Unwrapped.
Unwrapped, yeah, there you go. And on this date, Steve and Nate, April 7th, 2013, what else was going on that day in professional wrestling, speaking of John Cena?
I'm assuming it's a WrestleMania.
It was one I was at.
29?
WrestleMania 29. was on April 7th, 2013, just down the pike here at MetLife Stadium. And, John Cena, of course, got his win back from the aforementioned Rock to win the WWE Championship.
That was the Fandango WrestleMania, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. That was the almost Punk streak breaker, the 18-star Triple H Brock Lesnar street fight, and the Shield with their WrestleMania debut too. So, first WrestleMania for Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Dean John Ambroxley. So, who's all of his characters are. He should be like he should be. I should have said this to Pete in the A block. He should be like Mick Foley in the '98 Rumble, and he should be in the A block. He should be in the B block as John Moxley and the A block as Dean Ambrose. And then he could wrestle himself in the final. I don't know. Anyway, of course, yes, Kushida is in NXT now. And when I saw this match, Steve, I really like this pick, number one, because I don't know any Fergal matches pre-Finn Balor. I don't know a ton of them. So I'm glad you picked this match. Number two, I have no idea who his opponent is. Never heard of him. Sorry, blind spot there.
Oh, that's okay. Taguchi is still around. He's more of a comedy wrestler. He has his own faction, Taguchi Japan, and it's just kind of a throwaway. They just dump people in it. And so that was surprising to me, too, in this match because he's completely serious. Usually in these days, his funky weapon is his butt. So everything is like a hip attack, like Iceman King Parsons, only he does so many different versions of the butt. So yes, you'll probably be picking that for your next chance at the shoe.
I want more butts with the shoe.
I was surprised how much the Time Splitters, and I've seen like one or two matches of them. I'm surprised how much they worked. Very similar to Motor City Machine Guns.
Yeah,
very much frequent tags. A lot of double team moves, and in fact, what was the name of the Motor City Machine Gun? Was it the Dream Sequence? I call that their famous move when they plug like 10 things in a row together. Kushida and Shelley did that as well.
I don't remember. Crap. Yes, I think it is actually. I'll look it up. It should be on Wiki. So this was at I don't know what show this was.
Invasion Attack. I think it was the first Invasion Attack, if I'm not mistaken, Steve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was looking that up earlier today, and of course, my child played Roblox, and completely took out every single tab that I had open for the show tonight.
Well, I have. Here's the card. This was, it was April 7, 2013, Invasion Attack from the Ryogoku the one that I always blow. Ryogoku Kokugikan in Tokyo. I did pretty good. Time Splitters and Apollo 55. That's the official team name, of course, for Fergal and Ryusuke Taguchi. The rest of the card, Akibono. Really?
Ugh.
Jesus. Hiroyoshi Tenzan, Manabu Nakanishi, and Super Strong Machine defeated Chaos, which at the time was your boy Nate, Bob Sapp, Takashi Lizuka, Tomohiro Ishii, as we know, and Yoshihashi. 8-man tag. Tamatanga and El Terrible defeated La Mascara. Is it, or is it El Terrible?
No, you're right.
Excellent. Defeated La Mascara and Valiente for the CMLL World Tag Team titles. So Tamatanga and El Terrible kept it. The Complete Players, which is Masato Tanaka, and Yujiro Takahashi defeated GBH, which is Togi Makabe and Tomoaki Honma in a tag match. Minoru Suzuki defeated Toru Yano in a singles match. Hiroki Goto and Yuji Nagata defeated Laughter 7 by referee stoppage in a tag match.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Laughter 7 is Katsuyori Shibata. That's Shibata. And Kazushi Sakuraba. Come on, Steve. I'm doing pretty damn good.
Yeah.
What were you saying? Oh, I thought you were saying something else.
This next match, the NWA World Heavyweight title, this was a very weird time where I think 2013, 2014, they would have the NWA champion come over with their it's not even worth looking up, but whoever their promoter was would be like the heel manager who would look like.
Oh, this would have been the Bruce Tharpe era.
Yes, It's Robert Conway is your NWA champion with Bruce Tharpe and Jax Dane. He defeated Satoshi Kojima to retain his NWA World Title. For the Intercontinental title, your defending champion, Mr. Shinsuke Nakamura, defeated Davey Boy Smith Jr. and with Lance Archer, ironically, and Taka Michinoku. And in the main event, a 5-star gem by Mr. Maeve Delter, old shitty mullet himself. Kazuchika. Fuck that shit. I'm saying it my way. I think he'd appreciate it if I said it my way. Kazuchika Okada successfully defended the IWGP World Title against Hiroshi Tanahashi. How ironic, Steve!
Yeah.
That match just happened this weekend. And yes, Dave gave this 5 stars, and it was actually the 2013 match of the year.
Yeah, for those who think that Dave Meltzer just started overrating New Japan matches in the last couple of years, first match 4 stars, third match 3 1/4, fourth match 4 1/4, 3 1/2, 3 3/4. The one with the American in it, not rated.
Not rated.
4 1/4 and 5 stars for the main event. So this is, it's fine. He likes New Japan. That's great. I do too.
No love for Bruce Tharpe there.
Yeah, Bruce Tharpe. Yeah, he's like the manager in your local federation who just puts forward the money.
Yeah, interesting story about Bruce Tharpe. I had a chance to talk to him. This is probably in 2014 when I was doing Pipe Bomb Radio, and we talked to Bruce Tharpe. He's actually a lawyer from Houston or Dallas, I want to say, and got talked into joining the NWA or purchasing part of the NWA or whatever, some type of business arrangement. And the people that he was getting involved with were like, "Hey, Bruce, you're really funny. You're really creative and charismatic. You should be the figurehead of this promotion." And Bruce took it and ran with it.
That's ridiculous.
Until he sold it to Billy Corgan.
Yes. All right, Steve. So again, we have we got a good one here. I think we realized that 4 of the best workers in the company in the world at that time. Let us in.
Yeah, we talked earlier on about Kushida and Shelley working the real fast quick tag place, and eventually Devitt comes in and just hits Shelley with some huge chops that actually busts his chest open. So Devitt more of kind of chop kick offense, a lot of double stomps. Saw the coup de grace happen twice, I believe, in this one. Kushida got a hot tag, showed some bursts of what's to come. A lot of mat work, I'd say, for him in the beginning, but then he picked it up. And then there was a lethal injection, which, keeps our streak going of Jay Lethal references in the main event. This is a match, and I believe we talked about Alex Shelley in a previous New Japan match pick, one of the tag 4-ways or something like that.
Yeah.
But every time I see him, I reminded how underrated he is and his importance in kind of revolutionizing tag team wrestling. And, kind of showing it here as well. And, we had Tanahashi Okada this week, but also last week there was Best of the World in Ring of Honor. And in the TV tapings, Alex Shelley made his return.
Yeah, he's a guy who I think injuries as well as ineptness from TNA management held him back from becoming a breakout star. Because, he's, like you said, Steve, he's great in the ring, particularly when you put him in that tag team scenario, whether that be with Kushida or that be with Saban and the Machine Guns. But he's also very charismatic. And I think had TNA had better management, that's a what if for a dozen performers over the past 10 years. But this could be a guy that, we see on the level of maybe somebody like a Finn Balor or like a AJ Styles, because talent-wise, he's right up there.
Yeah, and he came out at, in Ring of Honor in 04, 05. You had Austin Aries, you had Punk, you had Loki, that entire class of wrestlers. And like you said, a lot of injuries, and super popular in TNA with the Kevin Nash stuff, and just wasn't able to make it. And I thought he was done. He left to become a physical therapist, got his degree, and said he had retired because of all the concussions. But there he was, came back this weekend. So we'll see how he fits in the Ring of Honor. I was going to call him Balor.
What'd you call him? Fat Balor.
Fat Balor. Yes,
fat hair. His Kyle Broflovsky hair.
Yeah, he broke up a pin. Then Kushida and Shelley went for a sliced bread powerbomb combo. I thought that Taguchi didn't look the best in this match. I thought he was kind of like a poor man's Kenta, and maybe that was just because I watched the Kenta Kota Ibushi match literally right before this match. So eventually, Kushida wraps up Taguchi in like a bridge pin and takes the match. It was about 10 minutes, I want to say. That match was. I wrote it down somewhere, but yeah, a little over 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and then the video was about 18 minutes, so I thought, man, there's still another 5 minutes left to go.
Yeah, I thought so too, yeah.
Devitt was pretty ticked off, and I was thinking, well, Devitt really wasn't in the match that much. And they start shoving. Okay, they're going to split up at some second. Time Splitters tried to break up the match. And then all of a sudden, Bad Luck Fale, looking way skinnier than he does now, with the bleach blonde hair, bleach blonde beard, and just kills Captain New Japan, perhaps the worst New Japan wrestler of all time. Devitt rips off the mask, beat up Taguchi. Devitt took New Japan's mask and shoved it in the back of his trunks. He was starting to make a bunch of gun symbols. Said that Fale introduced him, called him the underboss, said he was the real rock and roller, Chad Campbell. And then he leaves on Fale's shoulders. So basically, we're seeing what eventually becomes the Bullet Club.
Yep. Bad Luck Fale looked very trim compared to Bad Luck Fale I fucking saw. Oh my God! When I saw him on YouTube when he cut a promo after his win Sunday night in the first match of the thing, I mean, I'm like, Jesus Christ! Talk about Akibono. But looked very trim 6 years ago, I have to say.
Yeah.
Good timing, though, Steve. Good timing, though. I got to get this thought out because I'll forget it.
Yeah.
Good timing, though, on this match. And I know you were like, what the fuck is this at the end? That's exactly what he needs to do now and join like AJ in the club. Yeah, we need like a legit club. We need a heel Finn. I don't know if he'll want to, but
I don't mind them. We talked about this last episode. Make stuff up. Balor's been a face since she entered the promotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think of that, Nate?
I think that'd be interesting. I think that the club certainly needs something. And I'm speaking of Gallows and Anderson. And I hope that's where they're going with AJ. I think it'll do wonders for their career. And I wouldn't be the biggest opponent. I wouldn't be mad at all if they decided to pair Finn up and just have a legitimate heel faction, which we really haven't gotten one of those in a good minute, other than one associated with an authority figure.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't need Triple H being in the Bullet Club. I believe it.
That's what Jeff Jarrett's there for.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Jeff Jarrett's there. It ain't gonna be the Bullet Club. It'll be what? Aces and Eights. Because we haven't seen that in 7 years.
But I thought this was a good match, and I think it's funny because if you look at Finn or Devitt here, he was good, but I think if I'm New Japan and the way that they feel, I guess, about Jay White now, I could see why they feel like they might have another one on their hands. Unfortunately, that's a lot of pressure for Jay White to live up to. But Shelley is great, and I thought he and Kushida had great chemistry. And I think if you really want to kind of put Shelley in context, Steve, and I've been thinking about this the more I've watched this match, he's kind of like millennial version of Bobby Eaton, where he's just this great tag worker that you can stick with anybody and the team will work.
Sure.
I concur. Yeah, great match, Steve. Good first pick. Got to see a lot of guys, and Kushida hadn't done the whole Mork and Mindy look yet, so which I think is funny. I know I dated myself. I don't fucking care.
Well, I mean, it's a Back to the Future.
That is all. Yeah,
not too far away from Mork and Mindy.
Yeah, Kushida driving a DeLorean. Match number 2, Steve. We fast forward a year. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I think I might have seen this one. I can't recall. It was one of the, an early match in the Access area. And again, we have a match that might happen down the line on the main roster. We have Ricochet versus Kushida.
Wait. I'm confused, Steve, because you told me when you picked these matches that Ricochet was in the match, but all I saw was the janitor from WWE.
Oh, okay.
So I saw the janitor. I don't know if this is where the janitor learned how to wrestle, and that's what aided him in that tag match against Shane and Drew McIntyre. But I was confused.
Yes. So we had Ricochet, spelled in Japanese without a T.
Yes.
Versus Kushida in the finals for the Super Junior tournament number 21. Ricochet is representing Dragon Gate at this point. Kushida is seconded by Shelley here, and apparently the entire field for the Super Junior tourney is in Kushida's corner. I don't know if that was just for TV purposes but it was a little bit odd. Kushida's upper leg is wrapped, and I don't think that we're going to be able to do play-by-play on this match because it is about 23 minutes of a lot of back and forth. Kushida is trying to ground him in the beginning, and Ricochet is trying to flip out of a lot of moves, and Kushida grounds him again. And then, lots of high flying by Ricochet. This is when he started to make the switch from Dragon Gate, does flips and moonsaults for every single move, to a little bit more striking. I forget the move that he did a couple times in this match, once regularly and once off the second rope, where it starts in a go-to-sleep position and then into a gut buster. And then there's another go-to-sleep version that Ricochet calls the Benadryller, which he ended up winning the match with, which instead of shoving the knee into the face, he just gives a big kind of like sidekick right in the guy's head. I thought this was an amazing match. Crowd was kind of 50-50, then went from Ricochet. Then Ricochet got arrogant, so then they started cheering for Kushida. One of my favorite matches that Kushida does, which seems so dangerous, but he stands on the corner, does a Tope con Hero from the top rope over the post to the floor. You have to get some pretty decent height on. And Ricochet, maybe I didn't see this match because when he did his series towards the end of the match, it was like a Northern Light suplex into a suplex combination, a series of kicks, did that gut drop off the second rope, and then a 630. I thought for sure the match was over at that point. And then Kushida kicked out. They had a huge reversal sequence that went into the hoverboard lock. It started with the lethal injection, which missed, so Ricochet got on an electric chair. Kushida tried to reverse into a Rana, which was blocked. Then Ricochet went for the Benadryller. He rolled through, hooked the hoverboard lock, and eventually Ricochet was able to get out of that, lift Kushida up on his shoulders, hit the Benadryl to win it at, I believe, 23 minutes and 6 seconds. Meltzer gave this 4.5 stars, and also this was their second match of the night. Kushida was against Taichi in the semis, and Ricochet was against Taguchi, who we just saw. Those matches were only like 5 and 7 minutes, though.
And that's why I messaged you today, because I was fucking confused because they weren't easy to find on the New Japan, on the NGPW World, but I finally scrounged through to find them. It was not easy.
They have an awful search engine on the NJPW site.
Yeah,
and
it sucks.
It's worse. You have the Fire Stick, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, and I bought that specifically for the Impact stuff we do in New Japan because I found a used one cheap for $20, and
nice.
It's even worse on the Fire Stick.
I know.
Trying to find something. And you have to log
Impact
in
is
every
great.
time.
The Impact Plus is great, but the they need a little work on their interface. You and I talked about that, Nate, many episodes ago when we were talking about Global Force / Impact Plus. I think we said the same thing, that New Japan World, content-wise, is fucking ridiculously awesome, but the interface and kind of the maneuvering around the site is not great.
And Impact Plus is sneaky good. Like, the interface is clean, and they I think they did something for people that bought the pay-per-view this past week. If you bought the pay-per-view, you got 3 months of Impact Plus for, I think, 99 cents a month.
Wow.
So I don't know if that applies to like the replays, but I know if you bought it the night of, you got the price break for Impact Plus, and yeah, there's not as much stuff as there is on New Japan or the WWE Network, but the stuff that is there, it's categorized very easy for people to find.
Yes, it is. No, and I agree 100%. Just as a recap, guys, just look back now for a little history lesson. The Best of the Super Juniors started in 1988. It was called Top of the Super Juniors. So for the first 4 years, actually not first 4 years, first 4 tournaments, the inaugural tournament was in 1988, and it was won by Shiro Koshinaka. Then they didn't do it for the next 2 years. Then starting in 1991, they did it yearly. Norio Hanaga won it in 1991. Jushin Thunder Liger won his first of 3 in 1992, and then Pegasus Kid won in 1993. We all know who the Pegasus Kid is.
A murderer?
Yeah, that guy. He already mentioned OJ in the A block. In 1994, Liger won his second. In 1995, Wild Pegasus won his second. Of course, as we're goofing, of course, we're talking about Chris Benoit. Black Tiger 2 in 1996. Then in 1994 is when it became Best of the Super Juniors. And now here are the winners from 1996 down. Black Tiger 2, El Samurai, Koji Kanemoto, Kendo Kashin, Tatsuhito Takiwa. Liger wins his third. Kanemoto, that was in 2001. Kakihara. Then back-to-backs for Tiger Mask 4 in 2004 and 2005. Minoru, Milano Collection AT, Wataru Inoue, Koji Kanemoto won his third actually. Then the aforementioned Prince Devitt in 2010. Ibushi won it in 2011. Taguchi won it in 2012. Devitt won his second in 2013, as we just saw. Ricochet won in 2014. Then Kushida did finally get over the hump and won his first of 2 in 2015. Will Ospreay actually won his first in 2016. Then Kushida won a second one. Then Hiromu Takahashi. And then, of course, this year, a few months ago, it was Will Ospreay winning his second. Let's look at the standings in 2014, guys. Here was the A block. They treat that now. By the way, for those that also don't know, the Best of Super Juniors is done exactly like the G1. It's like the cruiserweight version of the G1 Climax.
Yeah.
It's done the same way. Here's the A block. This was in 2014. This is where the final that Steve picked. The A block was Kushida, Ricochet. So they tied in the A block. Taka Michinoku, Matt Jackson. Who's that guy? Bushi, Dorada, Liger, and Alex Kozlov, who withdrew. On the B block, Alex Shelley, who withdrew. Taguchi, Taichi, Nick Jackson, Kenny Omega. Yes, Kenny was in the fucking Super Juniors. In case you didn't know. Tiger Mask 4, El Desperado, and Rocky Romero. So instead of having... This kind of sucks for Taguchi. Well, there was a 4-way tie in the B block. Shelley, Taguchi, Taichi, and Nick Jackson all had 8 points. I guess Alex Shelley won the tiebreaker. Well, here, actually, you know what? Let me read it. It's right here. For the first time in 4 years, here's a little background history, guys. For the first time in 4 years, the reigning IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion did not take part in the tournament. It was Kota Ibushi. He was concentrating on chasing the Never Openweight Championship. Alex Kozlov dislocated his left shoulder in his first match against Ricochet on May 30th and was forced to pull out of the tournament, forfeiting all of his matches. Alex Shelley won the B block, but was forced to pull out of the semis after suffering a shoulder injury in his final round-robin match. As a result, Taichi, who had finished third in the block, advanced to the semifinals.
Okay.
A lot of shoulder injuries. So
they were setting up for they were teasing the possibility of a Kushida-Alex Shelley final then.
Yes. Instead, as you mentioned, Steve, Kushida fought Taichi. He won by submission. I have the match times, actually, 7:29. And then Ricochet beat Taguchi in just 5:49 on the same night. I have the match time. How long do you think it was? Because the clip on New Japan is like 30 minutes because Ricochet does a speech after. How long do you think the match was after watching it, Steve?
I saw it already, so.
Oh, you did? Okay. Nate, how long do you think it was?
I'd say probably about 21 minutes. I'm going to say 21.
Close. 23:06. It's pretty close. I was blown away by the back and forth. It was just so well put together, so well. I don't want to say scripted. I hate that word. They danced. They danced a good dance.
It's well laid out. Maybe that would be.
Yeah, there you go. Well laid out. Yeah. I mean, they went back and forth, and they were hitting each other hard, and they were falling into the barricade, and it was crazy. It was crazy.
And this was kind of the year, and when you look back to 2014, this whole year was kind of Ricochet's coming out party.
Right. I think so.
Being like a indie guy that a lot of people or a few people knew about, and there was some buzz, to taking that next step and becoming a player who would ultimately get signed by the WWE to become a janitor. To me, this was, speaking for myself, the first time Ricochet really popped up on my radar. And ever since then, like, this match was great, and he's done great things since.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Absolutely. Two tremendous picks, Steve. Tremendous.
Well, I have
well done.
One final thing to add.
Oh, sure. Of course. Please do.
Nate usually brings some great research out for our TNA reviews, and so I had the entire video playing in the background after the match was over. Ricochet gave a speech. Coda came out because that's you get the match a couple weeks down the line. And then one of my favorite things in wrestling, the comically large check was given to Ricochet, and it was for 5 million yen. And, my one kid was, I think, doing an art project or something. My other kid was out with some friends. So I'm like, you know what I'm going to do tonight? I am going to convert 5 million yen in 2014 to United States dollars.
Okay.
$48,751.95. And Scott, this is what I do for you. I bring some incredible research to the table.
You absolutely do. All Nate researches is who past Tough Enough winners are on Glenn Gilbert's segments. That's all we know. So,
or the sixth booker of TNA on episode 18.
Yes. Incidentally, speaking of research, as I mentioned, Kota Ibushi was at the time the junior heavyweight champion. Ricochet's cash-in was unsuccessful because now Ibushi beat Fergal, who had a 419-day reign as junior heavyweight champion. He beat Loki in November of 2012, held it till Wrestle Kingdom 8 in January of 14, where he lost to Ibushi. But guess who did win the junior heavyweight title? Just a few short weeks later.
Back to Kushida?
The guy that actually lost this match, Kushida. So, obviously, Ricochet's cash-in was unsuccessful, unless he had it later on down the line. No, he couldn't have.
Nice job, Ricochet.
Yeah. No wonder you're a janitor. He actually won it on the 4th of July at Kazuna Road.
How was that match now, Ricochet and Ibushi, even knowing he lost? I'm sure that was a hell of a match.
Oh, I'm sure it was. So Kushida held it until September when he lost it to Taguchi at Destruction in Kobe. Like his backyard? I don't know, I'm just saying that. Destruction in Kobe, like Black Mamba Arena. And then he would hold it until Wrestle Kingdom 9 when he would lose to Kenny Omega. And then Kenny held it, and then Kenny and Kushida bounced it back and forth. Kushida, all told, is a 6-time junior heavyweight champion. His last title reign was October of last year. And then he lost to Ishimori in January at Wrestle Kingdom 13, which probably was his outmatch, as he, of course, then went to WWE, and we saw him I saw him in the crowd in Brooklyn at TakeOver New York the day before WrestleMania, 2 days before WrestleMania. So, and then, of course, I saw Ishimori. I saw a great three-way live. Guys, I hate to, and I know I love you both more than life could ever imagine. And I don't say this to rub it in your face by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, Steve, I was messaging you every 10 seconds that night. I was honored to be sitting there watching that G1 Supercard at the Garden, because on that night, Dragon Lee beat Ishimori and Bandito to win that match was so good. So good. And of course, now the current champion is Will Ospreay, who beat Dragon Lee at Dominion. So good. I gotta tell you guys, we need to do maybe a live watch.
Yeah.
I think we have to do a main event special, because that's on the New Japan World, right? The whole show.
Oh sure. Yeah, it's on that, and it's on Ring of Honor. So
yeah, I think we need to watch it together, the three of us, because I really wish you guys were there. And I'm saying this. The reason I'm saying this is because, here's a guy, me, who 90% of the shows I've gone to in my life, obviously, are WWE. I mean, obviously. But it was amazing to sit in the world's most famous arena where I've seen a WrestleMania and a Raw / Saturday night's main event taping. That was the night that Steve Austin came out. And I don't see a single WWE thing anywhere in the building. And Johnny Reckless was on when we had the post-Mania, when we had the post-mortem episode. And, seeing Liger and Muta in the ring at the same time. I mean, it was just fucking amazing. And this match, that three-way was really good. Ishimori, Dragon Lee, and Bandito. Oh, my God, such a good match. We may have to do a live watch of the G1 Supercard. Maybe at the end of the year when we do, best show of the year or something. Maybe we'll do it. It was just so fucking good. It really was. Anything else, guys, before we wrap up? Any other good? Ricochet's awesome. Do you think Kushida... Let me ask you this, guys, quick. I'll start with you, Nate. Do you think Kushida was undervalued in New Japan? Or do you think he was right where he belonged?
I don't think he was undervalued. I just think that he probably was underutilized. Even though he got to a great point and he was involved in some great matches and some great feuds, I think at the time it was just so crowded, where we have, the Bullet Club, where we've got Okada, where we've got Tanahashi. And I think maybe if you could transplant that Kushida to now, when New Japan, as we talked about with Pete, is kind of looking for more stars, I think he'd get more shine now. But it's just a matter of, he was, to go back to our musical topic, he was El DeBarge when the Jacksons were out. El DeBarge was great, but you ain't no damn Michael Jackson.
No, you're not. No. Bobby or El. Or any of the other ones, other great named DeBarges. One TV did a documentary movie on Bobby DeBarge. Not El, but Bobby. Who apparently was a raging cokehead, which I didn't realize.
Yeah, I saw the commercial for that the other day.
Yeah.
It's just the weirdest thing.
The
Bobby DeBarge story.
Bobby DeBarge story. Greatest, best Jerry curl before Thriller.
Like Steve, there's actually one point in the commercial where the other DeBarges are like, you're going crazy, man. You got to remember we're a family. And he just turns and he's like, I'm Bobby DeBarge. Who are you? Really? This is what we're doing now?
Oh, God. Right in the middle of watching the Jeffersons on one TV. Ugh, tremendous. Tremendous. Wheezy didn't have as good a Jerry curl either. So, anyway, great pick, Steve. Tremendous picks in the New Japan Classic match picks. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. And it's now my time to grab. I am going to take the shoe from you, sir. And 2 episodes from now, episode 132, it'll be my turn. We had a busy show that night, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. We alluded to it in the A blocks with Pete. But in honor of the G1 Climax, I'm not going to say what the matches are. I'll tell you guys offline. But my 2 matches on our next in 2 episodes from now, which will drop the first Friday in August, I will pick not 1 but 2 G1 Climax finals matches. Okay, we did the Super Juniors. Now we'll do the big boys. Not sure which ones yet. Maybe one from the 90s and maybe one from the 2000s. We'll get out of this decade. We'll go a little further back. I'll do one from the 90s and one from the 2000s. Not sure which, but that'll be my picks in 2 episodes. Episode 132. Guys, great show. Tremendous show, as always. Enjoy the weekend, everyone. Steve, we were talking about this in the first. Your sons must be thrilled. I mean, this was a week, an 8-day stretch. I said this, we apologize for repeating ourselves, but Steve, of course, was not in the A block. 5 separate promotions, Steve.
It's crazy.
Doing big shows in an 8-day stretch.
It's absolutely crazy.
This past weekend, you had the G1 Climax Saturday night, and then this past Sunday was Slammiversary. And then this weekend, we have Fight for the Fallen, the Evolve 10th Anniversary, and then Extreme Rules on Sunday night. What a time to be alive.
Yeah. And there's more G1 this weekend as well.
Mm-hmm. And what's that?
More G1 this weekend, coming weekend as well.
Weekend. And then coming up next weekend, I think is not best in the world. What the fuck is Ring of Honor? Oh, Mass Hysteria.
Yeah,
I think that's next weekend. Yeah. So what a time to be alive as a wrestling fan. So we want to thank Sheriff Pete. We love you, Pete. Pete Schirmacher, everybody. And Pete will be back. Let's look ahead to the next couple of shows. In 2 weeks, guys, episode 131. Why don't we do because we haven't really done it yet. Why don't we do our halfway point episode? We're 6 months into the wrestling year. We did not have him on. We weren't able to have him on due to scheduling issues. Why don't we get our guy Brandon Howard on next time, and we'll talk about the halfway point of the wrestling year, and talk about WWE, and talk about New Japan, and talk about AEW, and see how companies look fiscally at this point as we head to the second 6 months of the calendar year. So why don't we do that? We'll try and get Brandon Howard on our next episode because we didn't get a chance to have him on after the end of the first quarter. So we will see if we can get him on in 2 weeks for episode 431. And then, guys, already looking ahead. Look at this, Steve. Booking ahead, baby. Booking ahead, baby. Episode 432, which will drop the first Friday in August. Pete's coming back. Sheriff Pete. And making his WrestleMania debut. His main event debut. I met him at WrestleMania while he gave me some moonshine, and I don't remember the first 5 matches of WrestleMania. He's the guest host of Raw. He is the guest host. He's the host. My God. I'm waiting for I think I'm nervous the power's going to go out again. He's the host of Row 1, Seat 1. Mr. Benzani will join us with Sheriff Pete 2 episodes from now at episode 132 because that weekend that we will be leaving, or the weekend previous, was, of course, the Scenic City Invitational. And we always have Pete on every year to talk about that. And Benzani, that's his neck of the woods as well, and he's going to join us. So that'll be up in 2 episodes from now, episode 132, first week of August. But on our next episode in 2 weeks, we will talk about the halfway point of the wrestling year. And then, Steve, your favorite segments of the month. We will go back to 2002 for our next installment of the classic TNA pay-per-view recap. We're winding. I didn't think, guys, we would survive this long. We're actually winding down 2002. So, not that anything's really changed since episode 1, but I believe it's, what are we up to, 18 now? Because all the timing is off because of that fucking that's the X Division recap episode we did in September, and it throws the number off. But I think, Steve,
number 18. Yeah, number 18, according to Impact, October 23rd, 2002.
That'll be our next episode. Our champions are still, well, let's see. Yep, it's still Ron Killings, R-Truth. Six-Pack is the X Division champ, and of course, America's Most Wanted is still our tag champs. So that'll be in 2 weeks. Please come back. For Brother Nate, for Brother Steve, I am Brother Scott. You are in the main event. The purple rain fell around my house and caused us to lose power, but we came back and we're still here. Enjoy the weekend of wrestling. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Hey, Steve Wille.
Hey, Nate Milton.
What did Beth Phoenix say to an overly aggressive fan?
I don't know. What did Beth Phoenix say to an overly aggressive fan?
Don't push me because I'm close to the edge.
That is good. I'm trying not to lose my head on that one.
Because?